Okay.
She could be.
You got it. I know you.
Yeah.
You're good.
Tom's moving now.
I'm on Zoom, but I'm gonna continue with my audio on my phone.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we can hear you well, so that's good. Okay.
Yeah, this seems to work a little better than Zoom. Yeah, I'll try to. Well, it's good.
You're good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay, Jason, write it down, go ahead.
Hey guys, well, I guess happy start to fall. I came back from Erie today, and the trees are changing, leaves are changing, so it's always beautiful to see. Kind of start with the executive summary, which is the second page of the meeting materials that we sent over, and kind of at a very high level, there have been two consistent themes driving the markets, and the first is the interest rates and inflation. The level of interest rates, now being as high as they've been in 15, 20 years, the level of yields on United States Treasury bonds, in some cases, going as high as going all the way back to 2000 with some of the shorter term Treasury notes and their yields. So that's kind of the first big theme, interest rates and inflation. And then the second theme driving markets is artificial intelligence and what that actually means for both the economy, stocks, and ultimately the profitability of companies. So those are kind of the two main drivers, and really they kind of played hand in hand insofar as the majority of the US stock market was screaming and has been screaming, interest rates and inflation matter. Right. The level of interest rates and the cost pressures of inflation are causing companies to margins to compress, earnings to come in not as well as were expected, and really the forward commentary kind of putting pressure on them, right? And the cost of borrowing capital, their costs are going up. So a lot of the stock market has been kind of flat now, given the sell-off that we've had over the last 3 weeks, or modestly positive. And you flip to this artificial intelligence, which there's no doubt that it's going to change a lot of the ways that our country operates and the way the world operates. Now, how fast that happens is a matter up for debate. But in the equity markets, there were 7 stocks that really benefited from this. The ones that most of you guys would know, kind of Apple, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, which makes semiconductor, the semiconductor super chips that hyperscale data centers need. Amazon, Facebook, Netflix. These were the Tesla, the very big drivers of artificial intelligence. These stocks, the Magnificent Seven, as they're being kind of coined, really drove markets. And there's a page in the market deck. If everybody can kind of go to page 5. It's this mega cap driving performance. So kind of a chart. A Bloomberg chart that's kind of got a black background to it. The orange line represents the Magnificent Seven price return. At one point, these 7 stocks in the aggregate were up over 100% for the year. At the end of September, they were up 81%. If you look at the S&P 500, the price return was 11%. So not bad, not 81, but 11 is pretty good. And if you looked at the equal weight S&P 500, that assumes that on January 1st, that Apple stock had the same weighting, 1/500th, as say PNC. That had a modestly negative price return for the first 9 months of the year. Stock markets are being pushed up, are being propped up by 7 stocks. The rest that the market would have you believe, or market participants are going to have you believe, that they're immune to interest rates and inflation. That they don't matter. Now, what we've seen over the last several days, minus today, thankfully, when I come to Franklin Park, more often than not, the market goes up. So that's always a good thing to see it in the green. But the last couple of weeks, we've seen a sell-off really start to occur in a lot of these more growth-oriented names, putting pressure on the S&P 500, taking the mid-cap index and the small-cap index are now negative for the year. So you really have 7 stocks making one large S&P 500 index positive, and interest rates yesterday on the 10-year Treasury yield hit almost 4.9%. And if you look on looking back and where the Treasury curve is, there is a lot of stress beginning to show in the system. So kind of at a very high level, the two big themes: artificial intelligence driving 7 stocks upward, and then you've got interest rates and inflation wreaking havoc pretty much everywhere else in capital markets. It's showing up in it. Yes.
Price return, is that price earnings, PR?
No, yeah, PR. So that's just the price for not dividends, not including dividends. So just a simple way to show kind of the change in
They
price.
seem astronomical. 181.
Yeah, so if 100 was the 100 is kind of flat, like it's par, it's up 81%. So $100 turned into 181, and $100 turned into 111 for the S&P 500's price return, and that the equal weight S&P 500, the way to think of that is $100 turned into $99.80. So kind of turn negative. Just to goes to show you that there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of underlying there's underlying issues beginning to show up. The effects of this interest, the rapid rise in interest rates is putting incredible stress on corporate balance sheets. And what you're also starting to see is cracks in the financial system, where a lot of banks are down kind of 30-40%. Commercial real estate is becoming under pressure, whether it's multifamily deals that are having a hard time getting completed, or to the extent that you have a lot of office exposure. Don't know to the extent, I know, there are a few of us that are downtown, and we can tell you that I'm in the office Monday through Friday unless I'm traveling, and unless it's a Wednesday, you don't really see a lot of folks in downtown Pittsburgh. That the effect of interest rates and the value of a lot of the office buildings on bank balance sheets, that's another kind of a stressful point. And it kind of led us in the 3rd week of September, as we talked about in the executive summary, that we actually reduced our exposure to the mega cap tech names, both in the growth equity ETF that we owned in the large cap space, and also the S&P 500. We moved that exposure in both the police plan and the general employees plan into core fixed income, where we can earn 6% yields on a go forward basis. We think that that's given where equity valuations are in the large cap market, we feel like it was a good time to pare back some gains and move some money into more, a safer place to ride out the volatility that we see, because we're going to take the Fed at their word that they're going to keep rates higher for longer, and inflation is going to be, a lot harder to stamp out than I think than originally expected. I kind of compare it to my own kind of weight loss journey. I tried to lose 30 pounds. It's seemingly ever since I graduated college, and the first 10 to 15 come off pretty easy. You can work that, but it's like getting down the last 5 pounds, last 10 pounds it's been very difficult for me. With inflation, we've got it down to kind of a 3 to 4%. The Fed's target is 2, and there's going to be more pain involved to get it down to 2. And I think for that reason, we have taken both the police plan and the general employees plan and made them more conservative, reducing the equity exposure and adding to fixed income, because we do think that yields are attractive. That's one of the things that we've done, and I think we're going to continue to look to do. One of the charts I wanted to briefly to go over to kind of to give you an idea of where yields are is if you flip to page 7, which says investment grade fixed income is still attractive, is this sheet right here. If you look on the left-hand side, those are investment grade. So kind of high, think of these as bonds that have relatively low risk to them, not no risk, but relatively low risk. The chart on the right-hand side are kind of fixed income instruments and investments that have higher risk, kind of high yield bonds, bank loans, things like emerging market debt. But on the left-hand side, if you look at the royal blue diamond, is where current yields are. And if you look at on the left-hand side, most of those diamonds are at the very tippy top of the 10-year band, or they're above it. And for us, we look at that, and that represents what we think is really good value. And in these portfolios where we're typically running, the police plans like 65-35, the general employees, we have to run a little bit more conservative, it's about 60-40. Both of these portfolios now are around 60-40 in terms of stocks to bonds. And we think that given our concerns about valuations, our concerns about interest rates and inflation, we think it's more appropriate to run a little bit more conservative portfolios for the next couple quarters. And as volatility the volatility that we believe we're going to realize will give us some chance to maybe buy, enter back into stocks, increase the risk in the portfolio at more attractive valuations. And I think the other thing I want to leave this group with before I open up the questions is on page. From a valuation perspective, you go to page 8. When you see the S&P 500, and this was as of February 19th of 2020, the S&P 500 was trading at 19 times earnings. And what that means is you paid $19 for every $1 of earnings generated by the S&P 500. And that was a reasonable price to pay at the time because the 10-year treasury yield was at 1.6%. Now you fast forward to June 30th of this year, so the end of the first half of the year, we were still trading at 19 times, except the 10-year treasury yield is at 3.8%. Now, the saying back then in February of 2020 was there's no alternative to stocks. You have to own stocks because bonds aren't yielding you anything. Well, that's not the case now. You can earn 6% in corporate bonds. You can earn 5.5% in U.S. Treasuries that carry almost no risk. Despite what some of the rating agencies might have to say about it, they're still the safest investment out there. In our view, the S&P 500 is too expensive. And the next page, page 11, we talk about where stocks are trading at. It's this chart that says large caps continue to look expensive. When you buy the S&P 500 at 18 times earnings or 19 times earnings, your forward-looking returns are below average. And if you look at where the red bar is, which signifies where the S&P 500 is, typically when you buy here, and if you look at historically, we traded at much lower levels. Now you compare that with the green and the blue line, with small cap and mid cap stocks. They're the ones that are screaming rates and inflation matter, and they've re-rated lower. And if you look at when you buy small cap and mid cap stocks at these levels, you tend to earn higher rates of return. So for a lot of our client portfolios, for the first time in quite some time, forward-looking returns favor small cap and mid cap stocks relative to large cap stocks. So I think from what you're going to see from a portfolio construction perspective moving forward, as we move money in, as volatility comes into the market and we find better entry points, a lot of our money is going to be going into smaller and mid cap stocks domestically and international stocks, rather than non-US assets, rather than large cap stocks that have exposure to these 7 stocks that I think are defying somewhat of gravity. So that's from a prepared remarks. That's what I wanted to talk about in terms of where of the capital markets basically for the quarter ending 9/30, the police plan was up about 3.8%. The general employees was up about 3.6%. So that had, that carried a lot of the sell-off that had happened. Those numbers are lower given the sell-off that's happened in both stocks and bonds in the first couple of days of the year, although we got some of it back today.
That small cap and large cap comparison, does that include, because consideration of dividends, which tend to be lower in
Uh,
small caps?
So the valuations, yeah, that would carry the valuation levels do include kind of earnings and the dividends kind of come out in that. So the valuation levels would include dividends in terms of how they're looking at it, how those things are valued.
Because it's not market differential, it's dividend.
Yeah, it's just what the earnings are and then kind of how you pay that out, whether you're recycling those profits, into your business, whether you're distributing them to your shareholders, if you're maybe buying back stock, although that has been particularly, that's been particularly popular. Although when you look at how the wide gap that you see in valuation levels, it's uncomfortable because small cap and mid cap stocks carry more risk to them. But from a valuation perspective, we would say that a lot of the interest rate and inflation concerns have already ripped through those asset classes. Whereas in the US large cap market, particularly in the S&P 500 and more growth focused exposures, excuse me, we don't believe that the re-ratings happen. Certainly, more volatile times ahead. But I'd like to open it up for questions.
Will you talk a little bit with AI?
Yeah.
How does that influence the market?
Well, I think right now there's this thought that it's going to, like I said earlier, fundamentally change the country or fundamentally change the way that we work. I think Jamie Dimon made a comment that our kids are going to live till they're 100 and they're probably going to work 32-hour work weeks. I think sometimes the 32-hour work week in some industries is kind of already there. But in terms of the AI piece of it, right now when we look at it, it is a cost for companies. And I'll just use Schneider Downs as an example. We're trying to figure out how to incorporate AI, how to make it better, and it's a big spend for us. We've yet to see it drop to the bottom line in terms of making us profitable. I think for a lot of companies, that's kind of where they find themselves. It's more the focus has been driving the market performance has been on the possibilities of AI. That is now transitioning to, okay, how does that manifest itself in profits? How does it make us more productive? How does it solve, countries' immigration problems? Like you take a country like Japan, who has a bigger immigration problem than we do. They're much more restrictive. They have a population that's getting much older and they haven't been able to replace it. Artificial intelligence is going to have to kind of fill that gap in that country. How quickly it can do that, I think is up for debate. It hasn't, ChatGPT can write you a paper, can write you a law school paper, can write you, a high school, can probably write you a pretty good entrance exam. But in terms of like the practical use of artificial intelligence, I think we're transitioning from the euphoria and excitement around it and realizing it's a very expensive outflow for companies right now. We've yet to see across a lot of industries it drop to the bottom line and show the profitability.
And can't pick stocks yet. AI can't.
The quants have tried to pick the quants have tried to pick stocks, and actually the quants are down the most this year. So it's kind of been it's been very difficult for them. Although I think there are some applications you can get really excited about. I think what it has done is created this concentration and this valuation where if you took those Magnificent Seven stocks and you value them on a market cap basis, they're trading at something like 55 or 60 times earnings.
Wow.
And that's something that we were happy to get the profits in our large cap, but we took it down in the third week of September, thinking that we were concerned about where valuations are. But that's the push-pull is going to be artificial intelligence can change everything. So everybody says, and then it's hey, interest rates and inflation matter even to these tech companies that have asset-like balance sheets. But they're still going to have to fund themselves, and the cost of funding themselves is going up. And I would also kind of say, as it relates to the slowdown in the economy, I think if you have mortgage rates over 7%, right, it becomes incredible. You price a lot of people out of markets. I think that's certainly a number that you're going to want to pay attention to. as it relates to the strength of the economy moving forward is that the spread of where the 10-year treasury yield is and then where mortgage interest rates are.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so I know you said like part of the push is the 7 mega caps that are driving the market. Is there also a possibility that people do not have alternatives to put their money to use? So that's part of what's driving up the market. I'm just trying to think of like 2004 to 6, housing was expensive and
Yeah, it's fair. I think that there's a perceived flight. There's a perceived flight to quality that those 7 stocks have had in terms of, well, they capture kind of the 2 themes they're driving, right? They positively benefit from AI, and there's a notion that they're rather insulated from the level of interest rates and inflation. Historically, that hasn't been the case. I don't disagree about housing prices, the mortgages being much, a lot elevated. What has changed since then is we have $1 trillion now on credit card balances. So $1 trillion in credit card debt. The average interest rate is now 24%. The price of gas now is what, 380 versus back then it was sub 2. And you have a lot of people who have balanced their checkbooks and the way that they run their households off of low interest rates. And you have 15 years, and I think that's the concern about the slowing down of the economy, is that the savings from COVID, all the COVID stimulus payments, that's all been spent down. People are now putting money on their credit card revolvers, on their credit card balances, and we carry much higher interest rates. We have much higher oil. We have, I think that there's something to that comparison, but there are some things that are, I think, are materially different. And I think the last thing I would say is that the pricing of houses is it's not only a problem of affordability, but it's also people not putting their houses on the market. So there's a supply constraint too that's artificially pushing up housing prices as well, because there are people who are like, well, if I have locked in, I feel like the majority of people probably in this room that own houses, and you locked in your interest rate and it's probably sub 3.5%. And you're going to sell your house and get a 7% mortgage. I think that there's a supply constraint there as well. But it does bear something to mention on the tech side. The one thing I would say in 2004, 2005, and 2006, in that period, actually financials were some of the best performing stocks. But it's hurt us, our allocation, not having exposure to things outside of US large cap. There's been no doubt. And the last time I got in front of you guys in June, we talked about, we were concerned about valuations and they got more expensive. Right now we're kind of back. The S&P is roughly back to when we got together in June. It got as high as up to 20% at the end of July. So we've had almost a 10% retracement from the highs.
Any other questions for Jason? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also a reminder, just like last time, money market funds and CDs and treasuries are yielding more than I were last time. So if you have cash sitting in a PNC or FNB checking account, make sure it's in a higher yielding instrument. One of the slides in there is cash as an asset. Don't let it go to waste. And that's the reason why Kathy sometimes gets emails at the end of the month. We run the cash, we keep as little cash as possible in the employees of the police pension plan. And sometimes Schwab sends us a notice that we need to raise a little bit of money to pay that out. So if you have money in the checking account, make sure it gets in something higher yield.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Brian, call. Everybody. Brian, we have a copy of the report in our, I think.
You do not, John. I'm gonna share it right up there on the screen. Oh, you have a copy of the audit report? Yes, you do. Just not the audit presentation. It's not we're gonna talk about it, but. Kathy stared at me like, what? I know, I'm sorry.
It's tough coming after the long, the investment.
Right, the presentation short, the audit report is,
It doesn't really.
long.
Yeah, the audit report is long, the presentation will be short.
Do it that way, I'm nervous.
Yeah, it's tough to come after the investment guy. I think Dave Dissel, who started our firm, he said an audit is coming in, grabbing the wounded after the battle's over. So, but, there will be a little bit of the same theme, I guess, with some of the, things we'll talk about here. So I am Brian McCall. I'm a partner with Mark Dissel CPAs who performed, and completed your audit for the year end of December 31st, 2022. These are a couple things we're going to hit on here. The first one will be some required communication. You can jump in, stop me at any point if you. As far as required communications we have to make, I was hoping we had Mark Dissel on the back. He doesn't. The Sun team does. So what's our responsibility as your auditor? Really, our role is to come in and give an opinion on the financial statement. Really, the financial statements are management's responsibility. Really, we get all the numbers from the trial balances, the information you already have together. We help put it in the financial statement packet along with footnotes and everything. But really, our role at the end of the day is to say, are these numbers and these financial statement disclosures materially accurate? Now, there was a pretty big change this year in that you converted to GAAP. What's GAAP? GAAP is generally accepted accounting principles. So that is, it's set forth by the GASB, who tells you what your financials should look like. Previously, you reported on the modified cash basis. I'll touch on a couple things here, but really it's kind of the difference between having some things like accounts receivable and accounts payable recorded, or even fixed assets and debt. Those things are reported in your footnotes in the past. Now they're actually reported as numbers really on a balance sheet. The other thing that happened during the year, and so this, we work with a lot of municipalities who do cash, modified cash accrual. Because you converted to the GAAP basis, you did have to adopt this new GASB statement, Government Accounting Standards Board statement on leases. It's a big thing in the for-profit world, the nonprofit world. There's these new standards on leases. As a government, in your case, it was a cell tower. You basically did have to put a lease receivable asset on for the anticipated payments over the life of the lease. And so that is something that truly is new this year beyond just the conversion in the financial statement. Something else to touch on, accounting estimates. Every set of financial statements does have estimates in it. Really, the biggest estimate on your financial statements and most all local government and school district financials is the pension liability. The asset side, you kind of know what that is worth, that the liability is calculated by actuaries based on the mortality tables, assumptions. So there is, if you get to that page of the audit report, it's probably about page 65 out of 80. But there is a little chart that shows you if your discount rate swung 1% either way, what it would do to your pension liability. It's kind of, to me, a good reference point just to show how much it can fluctuate due to the market. Something else that's in that letter, we got good cooperation from management staff as we have every year, and no significant adjustments as part of the audit process. So I always like to say, I'm in here months after year end. You don't want your auditor coming in and said, we had to adjust all these numbers that you used during the year to make decisions. So happy to report that as well. So just financial highlights. So now because you have this new long-term view in your financial statements, net position, think of that as equity like it would be in a business, a decrease of 818,000. Why did you have a decrease? Really, I believe the number is close to 2 million because it's basically because of the swing in investment. Your pension investment. So your pension investments were down for 2022, roughly 14%, which is effectively what we saw across the entire municipal landscape, was right around that number. So that really translates because at the end of the day, the borough is responsible for that liability, even if it's out there many years, it does impact your numbers. So the swing in that pension liability really creates this negative. But, you know, on a shorter term basis, and when you look at your reports throughout the year, it wouldn't show a deficit like that. Some other highlights you did receive, and I think you received a little more than that, but only expended $723,000 in the federal ARPA funding. Capital asset additions, that was a land purchase, big Swiftly Creek out there, and then some vehicles and equipment. There was the note to purchase the land, the long-term debt still out there related to the fire department. And there you see, you have a net pension liability of 2.3 million split between the plans. Many boroughs, townships, municipalities, that got to actually be an asset a year or two ago because the market had gone up so much, and then everyone's back to it being a liability. I don't remember the exact number, but the funded status of your plan is what we would consider very normal as far as that goes compared to other municipalities. Generally speaking, municipalities in PA, because of the requirement to fund the pension, when you hear about the pension shortfalls, it's not Franklin Park Borough or McAllister or Ohio Township. It's cities that have struggled because they had paid fire as well. And it's really the school system because of the way that is set up, and then the state retirement system. Really, almost all the boroughs and townships we work with are in pretty good shape. This is your fund balance. So this, we'll kind of jump between this and next slide. So this is using modified accrual, which is that GAAP basis, which does some receivables and payables. You'll see those fund balances are negative. That's just really a timing thing. If you look at the governmental funds, which is General Capital Reserve Highway 8, you're at 5.5 million. You'll see Clover Hill, which reports like a business, is at 584. So if we go to the next slide, really the governmental fund count, this is on the cash basis, you'll see it's pretty close really to the same numbers. And that's kind of, it doesn't change too much there. Where it does change is Clover Hill, because previously they didn't report basically the assets of the golf course. This year they do, so that's what that increase is from. So that's really in those funds the difference you see between that due to this change in so this is kind of my auditor slide. What do we do as your auditors? What's it mean to do an audit? So when we come in here, the first thing we do, and we have things set up, well, what did the audit, why did the auditor cross the road? Because that's what they did last year. But it's very true. We look at what last year, what were your controls in place? How did things work? And that's one thing here. In the years we've worked with the borough, we've always had a strong system of internal controls. We do not have a written management letter, which would be our recommendations for improvements to internal control to issue. I would say half of the municipalities we work with, we have what's called a material weakness or a significant deficiency in internal controls because things aren't segregated, or there's just kind of holes there that there is a larger risk. You have always had to focus on that, and you don't have anything like that or any other matters for us to comment on, which once again is a great thing. We also perform, so for transactions during the year, we take samples. We look at some timesheets, make sure the right rates are paid. We look at checks written, were they signed, were they approved, if they were supposed to be bid, were they bid. And for balances at the end of the year, cash, we either get on the computer and actually look at the balance the computer says to make sure that what the statement says is the same thing. We send investment confirmations to your pension team to confirm those balances. Things like that debt, we confirm that balance. Analytical procedures, we both use your budget. You know, the budget's a tool for you, but it's also a tool for us in looking at did things work as expected and looking at last year to this year, because honestly, it is true. Most of the time, you know, there's a lot of consistency as far as what your revenues are and what your expenditures are. So we do all that in the end to express an opinion on the financial statement. And so that's the kind of the wrap up is it's unmodified opinions on the financial statement. So that's the old unqualified, but it's a clean opinion on the financial statements. And so you have the set of financial statements. In addition to that, you already filed back in March with the DCD. There's an electronic form you have to file with them. Basically, same numbers, different format and more structure, and did the legal advertisement as you're required to. So that was wrapped up back in March, and those were also clean opinions on those reports as well. I think that's it. I think it's me and then Dustin and Emily are kind of the team that do all the work. I just come here, but, like I said, thank you to your team. It was a big undertaking, to convert the financials to the modified accrual on accrual basis in accordance with GAAP. So, thanks to Cindy for all the work there. Oh, man. My starting to
Oh,
ball.
sorry.
Here's you.
Yeah.
Questions for Brian? Good job, guys.
Right. Thank you
very much.
So there's no areas of improvement that your firm can think of.
No, and that's, in general, I mean, that is what, kind of our firm is known for, if you will, is we come in and make a bunch of recommendations, but we do not have any, we probably issue a management letter on 9 out of 10 audits.
What if your audit gets filed? Just here or other places?
So you have to file by March 31st with the Department of Community and Economic Development. And then because you have, general obligation bonds, you have to file online and put your financials up there, as part of, the bond covenant. You have to, so your bondholders can look at your financial statements by September 30th.
You share all that with them?
We provide it to Cindy and then
We do it here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that DCED filing is an online thing. We kind of do that together to hit the button.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian. Thanks, Brian. Okay. No old business, new business review of regular meeting agenda.
All right, sorry, I was up in Erie for a client retreat in September, but talked with Harley with respect to regular meeting and some carryover items, the introduction of the ordinances. I did understand that Tom had a question about the road opening ordinance, street excavation ordinance, with respect to what an occupancy permit. Oh, we want to bring everybody else in?
Yeah. Good point.
Essentially, that addresses scenarios where somebody needs to essentially close a lane for construction, maybe offsite, things you see more in the city of Pittsburgh or other places, but also occupancy of the right of way in terms of a monument sign or a subdivision, other types of things like that. It will likely not be used as much than it is when somebody needs
Hello, Bear, how are you?
temporary or permanently.
Lieutenant, how are you? I'm all right.
Occupy the right of way. The other items that we have here, in terms of the ordinances, we're moving forward with both Squire Ridge Plan Phase 3, as well as LaPlace Point / Taylor Ridge. Are in line, get them under their maintenance agreements. Taylor Ridge is already under theirs for an extra month. I just mentioned the street opening ordinance. We're going to talk about fees associated with that a little bit later. Everything else is lined up. We do have a purchase as well as a resolution to authorize a trade-in near $800 under the Borough Code. Any trade-in or exchange needs to be documented by a resolution regardless of price. Got other items, including the volunteer fire company donation, the Northland Public Library, and finally on motion 15, we don't do many on-lot sewage planning modules through DEP due to the number of public sewers we have, at least in the eastern part of the borough, but for certain properties that don't have access to public sewers, they have an on-lot treatment facility, different than a septic tank. There is a process by which they get a municipal approval and enter into essentially an inspection and operation agreement for that sewage facility that gets reported against the property. So McElroy Road LLC was one that we previously approved, put it into an inspection agreement, but they made a bit of a mistake in terms of their calculation of the security that they were providing to us and that we were to hold. They gave us $25,000 in one check and $12,500 in a second. And the language in the agreement just said we would hold that, as that they operate. But the DEP regulations state that the original financial security is supposed to be 50% of the cost of installation, be held for a period of 2 years. After that, it shrinks down to 10% of the cost and is held indefinitely in case there are any maintenance or operation issues with that. So to get them, back on square, and then they realized the mistake, they requested a refund of the $25,000, which would bring them down to the $12,500, which is half what they should have put up only at the beginning. So because the recorded agreement doesn't address the refund, we have added motion number 15, authorize that the $25,000 be released back to them. We'll still hold the $12,500 and we'll reduce that. I guess it's 2 years from when they went in service, November 2022, so maybe November 2020. It's just a house. Yeah. Then where's that one?
Let's send what the Beaver property down to the bottom of Rochester Road where, kind of near that, where the old, kennel is.
Anything from that? All right, moving right along. Report from staff.
Everybody has my written report. Don't believe I have anything additional, just a reminder that next Saturday, the 14th is the budget hearing, be there, be square, we'll have coffee, donuts, all kinds of video.
Whatever motivation.
Exactly, no Bloody Marys, no mimosas.
Okay. Question from Cindy. Gary.
Just to add with my report, we had the Public Works crew was out at a seminar today. They learned some safety in the workplace, stuff with sanitary sewers, asphalt paving, material techniques, fleet management, underground utilities, and MS4 stream bank restoration, and detention pond maintenance. That was all part of the seminar. And each of them got everybody got certificates and training for being there today. So I guess it's stuff we can add with our.
Everybody there?
Well, yes.
Yeah, that's definitely for our sport.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody was there. So just to add to we're out crack sealing a lot of the roads out there, doing probably one of the good here. We're waiting for Neely to come in and pave for our paving to get the milling done at Sturbridge. Haven't heard yet whether and exactly when they're coming in, but hopefully here soon, because I don't want to get too far into the cold weather to things change and stuff. I had a couple last work session. I talked about trucks and we were explaining to you about the Peterbilts and the internationals. The internationals, the price, the increase of the prices, the trucks. It's 2 years out on ordering a truck. Now, when I was talking about it, I was telling you that the Peterbilt was significantly higher price wise. It's like $24,000 higher than the international. Internationals were causing us a lot of problems with the exhaust systems and stuff on there. Now, when checking into it and stuff, and just seeing things, the only thing I can give you as far as through the reason for the increase through the Peterbilt is they have aluminum cabs on it. The trucks are actually, they claim they're lasting longer through all the places that the ones that are running these Peterbilt trucks are lasting longer. And I was looking to possibly get, see if we can, put an order in for that. Like I said, it's going to be 2 years to get the truck, so we're looking at 2025 as far as putting that on the budget for 2025. The cabs are all aluminum on there. The internationals are steel, which they don't, the aluminum's going to hold up better. They get aluminum air tanks, different components on the frames and stuff. And they're claiming that the way the trucks are built, just through the manufacturing, that they are not having any problems with their trucks. You know, like I said, we're running into problems with the internationals. I'm not sure whether it's gonna be the route to go if we wanna, continue to get the internationals because it's a cheaper price, but my suggestion would be, possibly looking into buying a better, vehicle, maybe a better truck just to see what it's, to see how this truck's gonna hold up, if we can, and that's, something that the council's gonna have to agree on, let me, where I can turn around and, order this truck. I'd have to put an order out now to get this truck in 2 years, so.
Before the budget, we order,
Um, probably the sooner the better. I mean, I could probably hold out on it. I mean, it's been this long now, so, it's, probably put us later than 25. I think that, it should be okay.
It's just one. Or he does that second.
They're all under state contract. Yeah, the trucks are all under state contract. Like I said, it's just a thought. I mean, we can go, the internationals, I mean, I can continue to stay down, because the cheaper price of the internationals, we might just have to do an increase on, possibly buying better warranties for them.
Any idea what the
So I'm not,
cost is on
yeah,
that?
just not sure. Maybe in a couple of years here, they might have some of the bugs worked out of it, so.
Any idea what the cost is on the one to carry?
No, I haven't seen anything, any prices out there on them, any additional warranties on them. I mean, I can find that, I'm sure they're not gonna be,
What
probably
you
cheap
check on
out.
it, Gary, let's, at the October 14th, budget hearing,
Okay.
make a final decision.
Yeah, and with that, you should bring your recommendation. It sounds like that you really are leaning that
Well,
direction, and
I mean, it's, yeah.
You're the expert. Long range is gonna save us money and time and period breakdowns at a critical time.
Yeah, because even with the warranties, a lot of times even on the warranties, I'm like I said, I'm not sure the prices on them, they're not gonna be cheap, but problem is with the warranties, the warranties you stuck for, you're still gonna have to tell them that each time you tow these trucks, I mean,
It's still out of mention.
it's $500, $600, $700 every time you tow these trucks out too, so it's cost, there's a different cost there, so I'll get that for you, I'll have that for you. The only other thing I have here is, I've been continuing to get a lot of calls at, Georgetown Drive. I mean, with stop signs on Georgetown Drive, there's always residents calling and complaining that they want to see stop signs put on. I said it's something that's, the council's going to have to agree upon, letting the engineer or, do a traffic study because we got to go through traffic studies on it. I told them it's just not an easy process to get these stop signs put in. But they were talking to like Pittsburgh Court, now they're talking Villanova, so there's three main ones up on the top there that everybody's complaining about. So, I'm like, I just figured I'd lay it out and just, let you know that we've been getting a lot of complaints on it. So
What do you think of that?
The complaint could go from speeding vehicles to people running stop. We've done, I believe, JMR studies with the device that tracks the things, and I don't think it's ever shown an enforcement, and I don't think there's a traffic volume. I mean, it is a cut through, but I don't think, we've done some post up there, we put the radar, and just not really seeing any enforcement action. I can revisit that with the JMR, and we can put radar trailers up there. I really don't think that stop signs are going to be anything that's going to improve safety up there. It's fine the way it is. It's just it's probably a traffic volume thing rather than traffic speed.
I saw that you said one was done in Sturbridge. Are we done completely?
yes, they finished up all the curbs in Sturbridge over there, so it's just a matter now waiting for we got to trim a few trees coming into the entrance part of that there, so we'll probably hit that within probably the next few days. They, that or first part of the week, we'll have that ready to go. So whenever we is ready to come in and do the mowing, so.
We know we met our quotas with one, but we're good.
Well, that was just over there. We didn't need it total. They still got to do, they were coming over to do, concrete work over in, Royal Oak too, so.
Okay.
And there's a good bit over there in Royal Oak, so.
No, I guess.
We haven't met. They're only, I think they're only around probably, right around 700 feet that they did out of that 3,000 feet so far, so. We're looking at another probably, I think anywhere close to 2,000 feet over on my roll over there they have done there. So they're doing the sidewalks over off of, over again in Northmont Farm and Grand School. And once they finish that, then they're gonna, and he said he's gonna keep going back and as long as the weather's good, he's gonna get the road work over the roll over there.
Any comments about the disparity in code? Thank you.
From residents?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still do calls.
It's striking.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the places we did, I mean, after 2 years, I don't think it's, so kind of blending in and, it's still.
It could be tinted like that.
Well, the only problem with that is if you had to get up in every truck and put some type of pinning, in there, it's, I don't think it's gonna be.
Yeah, council maybe like to go move on.
But that's other than that, that's all I have for my.
Thank you. Question for you.
Gary, I think last time, I can't remember if you mentioned this or not, but there's no obligation to throw order in, like there's no deposit, zero deposit.
No.
But conceivably you could order both, and is there a cancellation fee or anything?
Actually, no, probably through if they were both through Hunter's truck sales, they sell them both. I could check and see, just to see if that's a possibility, you know what I mean?
Usually doesn't just see which one comes in first.
Yeah.
No, we can kind of see how the situation turns over the next year or two.
Cause they claim that they would sell the truck even if, they would have somebody that would buy the truck even if we didn't take it for some reason.
Yeah.
I could talk to, our salesman there and see what he says. I mean, he's at retirement, he's gonna be retiring, so I'm sure he'll give up information on whether that would be possibly feasible there or not, but,
Not a bad idea.
but I just, I'll see if that's possible.
That we can like still decide long term if we want to go that route or not.
Yeah.
Anything else? Tim?
Planning Commission, we're meeting this month, no application. And we have a zoning hearing board application for a encroachment request for a garage in the front yard. On a lot of 2 front yards. And really, that's about it. I've been hanging around a lot with Max and his policy here. This last month, so,
And it's all good news.
we're, well.
For that, Tim, we'll keep you after too.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. It's really all I have.
Handshake.
Yes.
Passions.
Show you.
King John.
Yeah, anything on King John, I know we keep securing it, keep getting broken into.
I mean, that's it. I mean, I have a guy probably gonna be going up there next week and putting that back door up.
I don't know if you were there last time we talked about it.
In terms of condemnation, if you the property maintenance code and those requirements, and it's supposed to be a hazard in terms of fire and being fall down, not imminently, but a structural issue.
Active nuisance doesn't
I
have.
mean, we patched that up pretty well, so structurally, I don't think there's an issue, and the weather's not getting in there, it's just, the vandalism.
Why don't the people that are breaking in, not like varmints breaking in? Didn't we have like rodents breaking in the other one? That was good.
Actually, I think there was feral cats in here.
Yeah.
One time, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like
70,
people breaking in. You're exposing the building.
Kids.
Well, I mean, I like your idea with the traffic nuisance. What's wrong with our code that we can't get at this point? Sort of just.
Condemnation is a severe
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Needs to be justified. Yes, there are specific objective criteria to institute it. We could trying to get notice and provide it, and then the owner is, or
She's
can't be
gone, but
reached,
her
or
kids.
state, yeah, who knows? That could be a complicating feature, but if we do find out that information, post the property, start the process, give them the opportunity if they want to challenge it, do a hearing from the Building Code Board of Appeals. The end of that process, we are successful, either there is no action taken or is sustained, that would be a nuisance to be torn down, hire another company, take it down, file a municipal claim as a lien against the property, and do it that way. The other ones,
If I recall, there's one large pine tree remaining on there that's dead and could be a hazard too. We cut down the one that was close to the road, like the road cut that down. And there's still, yeah, there's still at least one. Windstorm.
Well, and here's the other thing, if that house is cleared off, that property, there's 2 lots there.
There's 2 lots, yeah.
That's all going to seed, and those people are gonna be happy with this. At that point, there's, no reason to maintain it, it's a vacant lot.
I would be happy with it.
Somebody will. The current owners are not in this area at
The
all.
current owner is dead. The children were all adopted and they're not interested in anything. As far as I know. I'm assuming that because obviously they're not.
And they keep getting billed, their tax
Well,
assessed
problem
for,
is,
for
we used to
for
send
mowing it.
We used to send them the herd on Washington, PA, and should get them in a nursing home and couldn't do anything about them, but now they're only going to that residence. So we're posting the residence and we're mailing it there, and then we get the mail back and put it in the file to show that we've done it.
There's no contact with any owners,
There's no owner.
no owner.
No. So,
an estate or a.
yeah, it's a mistake. There's a mistake.
Is there a state sitting open?
I have no resources.
I haven't been involved in looking at it or checking the title search.
And I don't know that, I mean, I know that there was sheriff sales going on in the past, and they stopped, and then they went on, and then they stopped, and
Yeah, somebody.
so,
kinda
sheriff
brings
know
it up.
whether that was for money owed on the property, or whether that was for the school district chasing taxes. I mean,
And she owned it, probably didn't have a mortgage.
And so it's just.
Owned it a long time.
Useful accounts and whatever we lean in for.
$1,000 only mowed.
But you suggested that it's perfectly legal, we go through the process of posting it for condemnation action.
We just need to
That's
go
going to show up.
and do the, similar type of review, take a checklist from the property
Yeah.
maintenance code of those meet the requirements of a dangerous building, what can you objectively, see and observe there without getting a administrative search warrant to get inside and have a structural engineer look at it. Issue a notice of violation, question of service. Concern in all of those is somebody comes by 4 years later out of the woodwork and, I didn't get notice. She did, so. It's type of one, we might want to do a title search as well to see who other claimants there are and check the state or
No,
the status of,
And then can
It
you-
sounds like it's Washington County, that's what she was domiciled at the end.
You can ask the judge for alternative service publication type thing.
Not really, because we don't get that far as could file some form of like an injunction case and bypass that, and we have, we've torn down other on Reese, Front Road, those two that used to be there. But those ones, you could see through the foundations.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost falling into the creek.
They
The other
were
one had an
vacant.
addition.
They were vacant, they didn't. Decided these things just full stop, so 4 years from now, somebody comes out of the woodwork and is looking for his grandpa's old, service revolver and gun and watch and the gold bullion that he had there from the 1800s, and all that stuff and it's in the landfill, then what?
But, I mean, to the extent of how many times you board it up and if it keeps getting broken into at some point, that action and the risk of, flushing things out. So it's time to accelerate it. And certainly open a file.
Danny, what's the last property reporting lost property? So you have to go through the process of mailing, and see if it comes behind.
I mean, would you give it to, sheet it to the state and have the state treasurer put it
Yes.
involved?
Yeah, it's lost property, yeah. You file a lost property. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, our efforts are what's keeping it from becoming. Which.
Yeah, right.
A problem, I don't know. Legally.
Max, on that matter, there's a vehicle that's not been inspected or registered for years. And recently got vandalized and the windows are all broken out of it. Is there anything that we can do to remove that? I'm afraid it's gonna be set on fire like the one on, in North Farm.
Yeah. No, I mean, there is, it's either in property maintenance code, I think, on junked vehicles that, not so much that it's just inoperable and is, unregistered right there. If it is a safety hazard because of open windows, leaks, things like that, you can sort of take action and, at some point, it's almost like mowing the grass for leaves. Like, yes, there's, notice, is there a due process issue if you go in and mow it and send them a bill? No, as long as they got notice beforehand, you don't have to go to a judge to ask for permission to mow and abate the weeds. If it's bad enough, it would be a similar situation where they get the notice of violation and the standard is that, you move it in 5 days or we tow it in 5 days and we cite.
Citations. Obviously, they're not going to be there. They're still pending.
Well, I mean, it sounds like, because when did she die? February. Okay, I don't know if she died. I just thought she was still in the nursing home. That, I mean, we should check the, what stage did you have somebody that's an executor and have something, even if it isn't a child or so, she may have personal representative. She appointed as part of the state. Check.
Do what we can, it really is a challenge. Every neighbor in the area is concerned about it, I feel it all the time, I'm sure you do too. Anything else for Tim?
I'll ask you a few questions. Is that all right? First one was we talked about conditional use hearings we've been having, like, 2 or 3 a year for the 1,000 SFA buildings, the big monster buildings, and they come in front of the council and we hear all the evidence, testimony, whatever. Is that something that you would consider best left to zoning and hearing board if we changed it so that they just went and asked for a variance in front of the zoning and hearing board? Do you see any
Special exception?
Yeah.
You have no control over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't,
Mm-hmm.
you may get something like,
Mm-hmm.
that would be my recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a good process.
Well,
So
it
you don't
wouldn't
like-
be I mean, yes, you could do a special exception, but the other concept would be to have our sliding scale, but it would go up to, 1,000 square foot, and then it would just be, that would end it. If you wanted to go over, you would need a variance from the zoning hearing board.
Well, I mean, I don't know, the thing about these things is what they do is they come in here with bigger buildings than 1,000 square feet, but they all want them higher too.
I remember that part.
That goes to the zoning hearing board, and that kind of stifles it. So I don't think we get as many as these as we could because of the height of it. I think that on bigger properties, in many cases, it's due because a variance would be a hardship, and I don't know how you can prove a hardship that way. So,
I don't know if I care.
well,
what
I understand that, but if you have 3 or 4 acres or something like that, they warrant a bigger building. So, I know we have 2 or 3 of these a year.
Yeah.
I think, I think we're doing our job by doing that.
Anything else, have any thoughts? If it makes sense to you to leave it the way it is, then.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some cases it's going to. For each person will be needed, you know, pick the black with our these things.
Don't look at me, that's.
Don't look at me, Rick.
Indeed, yeah, that one.
Please quote it directly.
The other one was the Airbnb and things going on.
I'm not having any problems with them. I mean, I'm able to get rid of them because the zoning district doesn't support it.
Okay,
So whether I'm doing the right thing or not, but it's working every time,
so
so.
people are coming, you're trying to get a permit, and it's just not.
Well, sometimes they come to me and sometimes I find them.
Okay,
And we're always able to chase them out or, you know, not make it happen.
is that efficient for you?
It's been working so far, and whether it would hold up in court, I don't know, but, I believe it would.
That raises a different issue.
Are they coming in, I mean, yes, I remember the one we've sent notice of violation, because it wasn't a single family use, but if somebody's coming in and say, I want to do an Airbnb, you put them in a conditional use.
Well,
I did
told
for
them
those-
Airbnb would be a change of use. Just keep the process and move with them. You know, they typically just don't want to do that.
That making sense legally about the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about.
Probably gonna have a dozen this year.
Yeah.
One year or the other, so it's been working.
So you don't think it could be made any more efficient or more, there could be more rules that we send them to?
I don't think we need anything else, and you guys certainly aren't, it's not coming to use, so.
They want more Airbnbs or maintain the option. Yeah, there are some places,
Yeah,
particularly in
it's not the place.
forest areas.
Standing back there once in a while, he gets a little, starts doing this, and then he starts looking for Airbnbs, and I think he stack of them and we take care.
Yeah.
Search everyone's.
I better book a vacation every now and then.
Vacation, right?
Yeah. This year, a vacation year, it's great year.
Pretty sad.
I know.
Anything else, Brian?
Oh, not the two.
Okay.
I forgot any update on the water line replacement over on one.
I talked to, I sent an email out the other day, wanting to know when they were gonna pave that. They're supposed to be doing that this week coming up.
I thought I
he
saw
was gonna
them
start-
out there.
Thought we were gonna start today, but there's still, look like there's still some areas are opening up for cabins and stuff like that yet too, so. Yeah, I told him, I said, it's a mess, but,
It's a little train wreck, and I get like people that don't even live in Franklin Park saying, what's Franklin Park gonna do about
I
that?
got
I'm
that
like,
one at a
"Oh,
another
seriously?
municipal meeting, somebody
Come
lives
on.
here. I said, I put the water.
That's not our road. You know?
yeah, and I talked to him about, you know, when I told him about possibly getting involved with them as far as doing half the road. And the email he sent me basically said that you already said you were planning on milling and paving so that you're putting extra money in the budget. So that just goes to show you that Westview Water is not saying, you know, they don't want to help us out anyway. So
They don't.
I think, you know, when we get our new ordinance,
Don't like the street open.
once that's through, I think, yeah, that we're gonna force them to
Yeah.
make their payments on everything.
Hey, Gary, I have something for you here. Remember, a week or so back, we talked about that little caving in that's taking place on McAleer.
Took care of that. We already.
Well, did you? I was asking.
Yeah, we took care of that.
We did it?
Yes.
Thank you.
I put an email out to the state, never heard back. Nobody ever contacted me back. Every time I try to talk to them, that's what I get, you know.
Thank you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
so we were doing some curb work and had the guys go down there, we put some asphalt in.
All right, thank you.
Where was that on my?
Mac, we were right down below Sturbridge. There was some big holes opening up coming out into the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what you got.
say, we ended up taking care of it, because I figured it ended down and toss and start falling in. So,
Thank you.
Zach,
You have my report. We are registering for Halloween. We're about halfway full already. We weren't gonna do the yard signs because we were filling. Then my board said they want the yard signs. So we just got them in and set up today, so I'll be out tomorrow putting them out. Which means we'll probably be full within the next week or so.
What day are you doing it?
28th.
Doing the same program?
We're gonna bring in a couple local businesses to do trunk or treat this year, in addition to what we normally do. So, I think we have 6 right now that's come to do, business promotion and candy handouts, things like that for the kids. Just like I said, in addition to not in place of, just to see if this is, get a little more community involvement in what we're doing. We've had the Y for the last couple of years, now we'll have a couple more.
This is, it's an all one age group, not like Easter egg, just put it up there.
No, it's just a party. There's no competition aspect of it. Most of the kids do come dressed. We have games, we have the movie, we have a craft for everybody, cider, snacks, things like that. But you must register, and it is limited. Don't forget.
what's
I'm looking at you. Yeah.
What's the limit? How many?
We're typically registered around 400
That's that. Kids and adults.
kids in the. Yeah, we usually, it's a free event, so we plan on 20% not showing. So really our goal number is 350, which because we use the parking lot and everything, parking within the park is comfortable at 350. So, this is only 200 cars in the parking lot.
Yeah.
A little better, a little more manageable than the festival. But other than that, we're moving right along into the event season here.
Questions for Zach? Golf course and parks, Jim.
Yes, you have my report. Anything we mentioned from the park or the golf course side of it. We license the courses this week. Next week, we're gonna be up verifying, and all the greens up. Really, it'll heal quick. The other thing I wanted to point out is in your monthly reports for the revenues in the golf course, we have the old system we were going, but with the new POS system we have. Going into next year, I just printed off what that computer can do rather than me have to hand take it, because I can do it that way. I even have a chart that it has a here graph. So there's a lot more that does. It's already, the computer does it all. I don't have to do all the adding I do with the old system, sit there for an hour and go through it all. And there's so many different reports. You can break everything down. I can break it down by hour, by day, by month, by year. So going into the new year, that's what the new reporting will look like. And then on the parks side of things, after talking with, or Tom had mentioned last week about some old orchard and some staining in one pavilion, I kind of had help Gary's guys look at the roofs on Blueberry. Condition, when they thought that they need replaced type thing. So the football roof is something they said should be done this year before end of the year. Activity center, probably, ideally next year. One of the things that was brought up, I was talking with Reed and stuff, is do we want to do metal roofing rather than shingles?
What are your thoughts?
Either way, I mean, the metal roofs, they do, they last long.
That's a long time.
They last a long time, but the aesthetics, the colors that you can pick,
They're beautiful.
in that park would be, especially on the activity center type facility. I don't know how much more the cost would be. something like even like the football and the activity center, that's something we have to outsource. Those are way too tall for us with harnesses and OSHA rules and things like that. Or like pavilions and stuff down the road as they come to. Aesthetically would look good, plus you get longer life out of them.
Thinking about the sound,
The sound inside like the activity center, I don't think you're gonna have an issue because of the tongue and groove ceiling in it. I mean, I don't have any experience on it, but I can't imagine that getting through that kind of ceiling. Aesthetically, I told him, yeah, that tan building with like a green metal roof would look right in that work.
Yeah. Noise typically.
Like I said, I can't, you know, a typical house, you have obviously attic insulation. Like I said, you're basically bouncing off of that wood roof, so I can't imagine it's gonna come inside. We have so much sound panel in there
That's true.
that I can't imagine you're gonna get much.
I think about it, because the activity center, the winter, the weather, the wind, that thing, that's why the shingles, you're, you know, barely getting to their 25-year lifespans because one winter that whips across there pretty good. But a lot of the grits will worn off of them. It'll last another year or so, but it's in the radar to be replaced. But like the football is something definitely he feels it should be done sooner than later. So if we want to go that route or get prices on the metal one, look into that and start it as each one comes due, follow that same pattern, so they're all eventually done. So.
With our little parking lot park and outside the building here, how's that coming in? What's that gonna look like? Yeah.
Down here.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, they will do that perky pave that
Right.
we did over in Old Orchard. They will do that tomorrow. So that'll, for our end of it, for the most part, we're done. The Girl Scouts will plant their seeds. And then hopefully by the spring, there'll be a pollinator perennial garden there.
Very good.
It looks so good the first year.
Yeah. There'll be picnic table or anything?
There will be a table on that perky pave. There will be a picnic table or a talk with one of they did a picnic table or an octagon table that has a handicap slide that look better than a picnic table there.
Right.
Also, you know, we can get prices and see where, you know, and the picnic table, the same one that's on this side, it's about 1,500. But it's a plastic composite, so it's never going to, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to rot. It's not going to rust. They use them for all the parks, and you know, they hold up.
And the little library will be going back up.
The library is already.
Oh, is it up already?
It's put back.
Okay.
And then, you know, the library is out front. Eventually, when we have the turkey pave at Old Orchard, that's where that one.
Yeah.
So and we'll have that hopefully. You know, I mean, the guys will do a turkey pave tomorrow. It is warm enough, and then one of Old Orchard the next. Hopefully get these one more warm spell. You know, just because the epoxy it works better with a little warmer in the window. And then the other thing I want to mention was the baseball. We met with Steve from baseball. Some of the things they're looking for in the future, you know, they do have a grant for some lighting and field for the biggest thing with field, you know, some of all our fields. I had the guys go out and do some grading, measurements on all the fields. Like field 1 from home plate to center field drops 8 feet. You know, field 4, it goes from home plate to outfield goes up 8 feet.
Wow.
So there's some things you can do, some things they are what they are. You know, the field 4 seems like the one that we can do the most with to help the drainage that goes into field 3. And you know, and then with their light, you know, if they use their grant for some of the lighting until we figure out the upgrades to all the lighting. And that was their biggest concern is obviously needing more fields. They would make 4 a little more usable. We talked about them not utilizing some of the other fields that we have, like down at Lynbrook. One, there's no lighting, so in evenings it's a little difficult. They're concerned some of that, like that feels almost a little too big for some of their kids. That's why they don't like going down there. We don't always maintain it as much because we're not down there as often. Because they're not using it, you know, so if they were using it on a regular basis, I'd send guys down on a regular basis, but I'll go down there every day of the week, and if they don't use it, it's a lot of wasted labor that if they're not using. So those are some of our concerns for them.
They have an expiration on that grant coming up. Is that what you said?
He didn't really say,
He said it's been open, I think,
He-
for a little while
If-
already.
They've had,
Somebody-
it, like, he said he was at home one night, and it kind of popped up, and he applied, and then within a week, he got, the Pirates gave him, 20,000 towards it, but he doesn't really know much. He doesn't know the next step, he really didn't have an answer to us for the next step, so I'm not sure how long. I have to talk with Steve to see if he looked into it anymore.
There's some other interesting ideas too that we need to look at for long-term solutions, like, movable mounds.
Yeah, those are best.
Or, temporary outfield fencing, so you can make it smaller for smaller kids.
So like field two is our nicest looking field, but it's the least used field because it's for the older boys, and it's just not used, because of the mound, it's not used for anything else. So that was the biggest one, with getting rid of the mound that was put in and having a temporary.
Not a bad idea.
Seems like some decent options. that
Now,
we
the
like.
temporary movable field in the outfield sounds nice when it comes up the maintenance side for the mowing. Yeah, we always mow nice stripes this way and that way. Now you have this big fence through the whole thing, so, but if the field gets used more, then,
I've never seen one of those. I don't know.
I've researched them because it was brought up a couple years ago. You basically almost, it's like a plug system. And then it's lightweight fencing, not snow fencing, but like a weave fence. And they just literally pop with poles every 6 feet or so. Yes, we have to pull them, but it's certainly possible. Or we could talk to them and tell them, hey, we're gonna mow tomorrow, pull them at the end of your practices. It's something we can work with them on. They're not outrageous. I wanna say, like, I think when we had looked at that field before, like 12,000. So.
Better utilization of what we have.
Right.
Yeah.
because even they had tournaments, they end up using that, that's like I said, it's a nice looking field, they use it for warm
Home
up.
run derby.
Yeah, home run derby and warm ups. So if they can use the field, that would help them as well. He mentioned with Wall having a couple, some of their upgrades will help a little bit.
Nice.
But,
I've seen
yeah.
that.
But, it's a big association, there's a lot of kids, as you know, in that, so they're always looking for more, so if we can accommodate them a little more. And I know Zach talked with them about some of the contract and the pricing and issues that we addressed with them, so. Moving with that.
I just want to say, everything your crew does is really good work, but this landscaping around the building here, is pristine. It's really something to be proud of.
Fire department too, that's great.
Yeah, they did work on it, they added just more for the back steps this week.
Yeah, and I wanted to point that out, that is excellent work back there, those omni stones and the rocks and the new plants look fantastic.
Yeah, I did it in a previous job years ago in Shady Side, and I liked how it looked. I wasn't sure going against the red brick, how it would contrast, but I think it breaks everything up back there.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jim? Stormwater, Justin? Oh, I'm sorry, whichever, pick one.
Yeah, just a quick update for me tonight, actually. Gary, during his report, mentioned Colombo, they're on Branch School Road now, they're probably 3 weeks or so there. The sidewalks in on Branch School, and then they'll move back to curb, probably a couple months where the curb at the pace that they move.
They can keep going that long.
We'll see how the weather goes, some of it may spill over into the next year. Fingers crossed, we can do with them in December here, yes. But yeah, the stuff of this year's paving time, and they're focused on sidewalk now, and it's Summerfield. And then, other big one is Acorn Park, permit submittal is in, we're hoping for comments here soon, as we're waiting for permit response comments, keeping some other tasks there, moving utility coordination, some of the other pieces of the puzzle, so moving towards hopefully construction early next year. Aside from that, I think the report has the rest of the updates. Questions
Out there. Any questions?
Right. All right, so the update, I do have a few updates on Ramblewood. Where that stands is I am working with People's Gas to try and confirm more accurate location of their gas line. There's some
Is there an incident?
yeah. There's some markers. there's some markers down there that, there is a gas line along, the Landowners Road. And, we would need to do a little bit of grading, over that gas line, so I need their permission. When I reached out to them, they provided some mapping that is almost certainly incorrect because it goes underneath his house. So I've actually reached out to them personally and talked to the engineering manager, but it's just not a priority for them. So that's really after that, and I figure out what's going on with that line, and if they're okay with us working over that line, then I think we can get back with the landowner and get things moving, get that up for it. Matterhorn. So the Matterhorn Basin retrofit, that is being advertised tomorrow. I brought 2 copies of the plans and specs for the borough. So everything else is in my report on Matterhorn. I'm going to jump ahead to Fish Run and then circle back to Bear Run. So for Fish Run, the JPA was under review. We got some comments that we addressed, or we felt we addressed. Actually, the comments were that they wanted to provide proof that the borough was seeking easements, or provide copies of the easements. In writing, we have that. We provided proof because we do not have signed easements, and DEP came back and recommended that they would prefer that we just withdraw the permit until we actually have the signed easements in hand. So they moved the goalposts. We didn't really have a choice because our 90-day window was up, would have been rejected or withdrawn, so we withdrew. So we lose some time. We don't really lose much money other than a little bit of time to resubmit it. But it is still disappointing that they moved the goalposts on us. Talked to the reviewer, Tyler, offline, and he said he was okay with it basically on the side, but his boss came in and said, no, we need signed easements now. So that's unfortunate, but that's where we're at.
And we're in a position now, I think, where the easements look like they're ready to go, where we could be submitting them to the property owner. I've talked to the property owner. He and his wife purchased the property just a couple years ago, and he said that he understands what we're trying to do and he fully supports it. He thinks he'll sign the easements, but his plan is that in 10 years, when his kids graduate, he's going to sell the house, and he's concerned about putting restrictions on any part of his property that it can't be built on, for example. And we're asking for a conservation easement along the stream. So he's going to have his attorneys look at the easement agreements and see where we go. But he's saying that he doesn't want to come across as he doesn't trust us. And I understand completely. I mean, we're the government. We're asking him to let us use his land.
How much land is it?
Big parcel, and anyways, got like.
Yeah, the stream is way down in the back of his property. And it's got a pond on it. I mean, it's a really nice property back there. And he understands that we are actually improving the stream. So I think he will sign the easements.
And that's really DEP's concern. Until you actually have ink, you just got some verbal, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But once you see the easement agreement, see what you're actually doing, some guys are going to take it to an attorney like him, and some guys might hopefully not, but some guys might back out.
And that's been the battle with stream restoration all along. I mean, it's a great concept, but streams run on private property. Private property owners aren't always happy to give up their rights.
So this would restrict his rights in the actual channel itself.
Exactly.
So for him to actually build there, I guess.
And he understands that too. He was just talking in general principles, and it constricts him in some way.
Yes, for sure. And that is true. So that's where we're at with Fish Run. I do have a pre-application meeting set out for November 1st at 10:30 in the morning. Once I get the invite reach, I'll forward that to you. And really, I'd like to have, if we could, you know, it would be nice at that meeting to be able to say, you know, we've got this, we've got that, here's what we got.
I think we will.
Okay. So, and then with that said, I'm gonna go back to Bear Run. Really, no news on Bear Run. It's under technical review and has been for a while, which means, I don't know, we should be expecting some sort of technical comments. One of those comments is guaranteed to be produce the signed easements for the landowners that are involved, so.
Landowners.
Yes, yep, so, I would hate to see that one withdrawn or rejected. Also, Matt, believe you have everything for me, but please let me know.
Yeah, okay, I think.
I'll take a look too to make sure we're still in. If we always have to meet then to reach out to the property owners.
That was the first batch.
All the property owners are agreeable up to this point in time, so I don't think we'll have a problem with that. Yeah, they didn't even know they owned property.
And then I think the last thing I had was, did provide, an updated, stormwater impact fee report for the borough just yesterday. It was a couple years old. There really wasn't any substantial changes to it that affected our recommendations or conclusions. Really, the biggest notable item is that, you know, Mount Lebanon updated their stormwater impact fee, bumped it up $1 and plan to raise it every year for maybe the next 5 or 6 years.
What are they up to, Justin?
I think right now, I thought they were $9.
I think I sent around maybe like, because they did an article in their newsletter and sent around, you know, explaining why it was created, what it's been used for, and why it needs to go up, and they have the schedule in there. That was a couple weeks.
You should already.
Yeah.
But I believe in, you know, 4 or 5 years, I remember seeing a number, maybe 14, 15 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's per month, and then you have a 2% discount if you pay it all in February. Perhaps, I don't know. Purpose.
So I think that is all. Any questions for me?
All right. Lieutenant Schneider.
We have my report, we're hopefully wrapping up the injury bug. Officer Latimer, I spoke to him, he gets seen by a doctor. I believe it's around the 15th of this month, and he expects to be cleared to come back to work. Officer Smith, she injured her elbow and was hoping to be back. Her doctor wasn't happy with the progress she was making, and she has an appointment on October 11th. And she probably still has 2 to 3 weeks before she's back. That's probably if we get good news, but we should be coming to the end of this. The testing process is in the background stages. We completed 3 polygraphs this week with 1 more scheduled on Saturday. We have the civil service scheduled for a meeting on Monday, the 17th, to go over the candidates. So next week we will be completing the rest of the background investigations on the top 4 candidates. And they seem pretty good.
What's our timeline for actual hiring?
Well, I think that we should be able to get a list to you guys or have something for November for a motion to make it an offer. And then we would do the drug screens, the physicals and that stuff, psych test, and then have them ready to go for January. So the Kathy wouldn't have to redo everything all over again.
Well, we were talking, because open enrollment is already starting. So if you hire somebody November, December, they're making a choice for a health plan for 1 month, and then sometimes people switch plans based on how long, so we just said it's easier to start.
Yeah, it becomes easier for the proration of all the other
Yes.
benefits and stuff if it just starts in January. I think we keep our fingers crossed we'll get through December. Yeah. That's all I have for you, unless you folks have some questions for me.
Thanks.
You have my written report, did include a memo just on the creation of a stormwater authority, as well as the draft of an ordinance, and the articles of incorporation. The names of the 5 board members. We have 1 already listed there. So that would be one consideration, but yeah, take time to review the process, continue to think how we can populate that board. At some point, we would introduce the ordinance and schedule a public hearing, do the advertising for the public hearing based on time periods in the memo, establish when we would submit the articles of incorporation thereafter, have a public hearing, hopefully approve the ordinance, and then submit it to the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Birth to a new entity that is part of the Commonwealth's sovereignty, not a department. I don't know, I mean, we have the stormwater committee, that's tasked with mapping that out or figuring it out or doing the recruitment. It's one option.
We need people. Yeah.
You have a
Must be
committee
listed.
though, right?
We have a committee.
Yeah.
We actually need people on the board before we can enact the ordinance.
Right. So who picks the board?
At this point, you probably looking at halfway through next year kind of thing.
We're getting it
Anyway.
up and running.
No,
We don't rush to try and find board members.
I think you do it right, and if you have enough time to let people know what's coming.
Newsletters and all
People
that.
more, yeah.
Yeah, you do it.
Yeah, you don't want to just rush in.
A special landing page on our website devoted to stormwater authority.
My other items are executive session.
And at this point, Zach and Jim and Sean and Justin can all leave.
Thank you.
It's not Sean. No. I
Yeah.
don't.
Three options, openings and occupancy permanently.
That's sort of all of us, as part of the, new ordinance for street excavations. We cross-reference the annual fee resolution. Currently, you have one line or so, $100 for a street opening permit. There's exemption for municipal authorities, anything. Sense. So, to tie in with the adoption of the ordinance, it does take place at the October meeting. We'd like to have the fees ready to go and in place. We've often, whenever we've amended the fee resolution, we've done an amendment and we have the entire fee resolution highlighted with the changes. Kathy and I have our own debates about that. Kathy wins all the time, and therefore, that's how we do it. And so, in terms of the considerations, anytime we are setting the fee, it's not to be used to generate profit or income for the borough. It's not to be converted into a tax. It is to essentially compensate our administrative overhead in terms of time, attention, materials, things of that nature. So I'm not sure, Gary, if you've given much thought to, what it would look like in terms of amounts being changed, but we would certainly make it applicable to anybody coming forward and not have exemptions that are built in current.
It's almost like a miniature of like what we do with developments where we send our engineers, so we have to capture your labor costs and the materials that you expend. So it had like a chart, if we have to pay for our material.
No, I mean, this would be more of like a flat fee.
It's a flat fee, and then you got an inspection fee too, you charge them, like the street opening, you charge so much for the street opening or shoulder opening or, in the easement opening or whatever, there's different rates there, and then you charge them for, like an inspection fee, for my time for them, to go and check for inspections. To look at it, whatever they're doing, but.
We talked to the other folks folks that are doing this in the other townships, you have some idea of how much it should be, how it would be structured, how much money?
Yeah, I could probably do that. I haven't done that. I just looked at the, that was, when I seen that, what we have, I just looked at it, that was like normal fees of what they charge. I don't know if that's.
This would be a good time for us to see what I have to do.
If you, if that's stuff you see Max with.
I mean, we don't
normal
usually
fees or.
get into, Larry's been doing summary of other ones, but no, I mean, it's,
Sounds like just talk to your cohorts and the other, like, see how much, what they're
Yeah.
doing, right?
yeah, the only difference is sort of those occupancy fees, if they're not really cutting into the road, they're just gonna stage equipment on there.
Mhm.
Need a little road closing.
I mean, I could reach out to a couple of townships, Ross, I talked with Ross down there, talked with
That's a good
Funk down there, and, they have a guy that's a full-time.
That's what kind of started this,
On that, yeah,
in my mind.
Yeah, and there, I know that too, is even on, looking through that, sidewalk, I think on the sidewalks, and we didn't have any type of fee at all on the sidewalks.
We're opening up side.
Yes, yeah.
And you want that too, right? 'Cause-
Well, yeah, it's listed in there as a sidewalk opening, there was, I didn't see, there was no fees on that. That, and the only other question I have, is there a standard, any type of standard forms that
Application
supply
forms
me
or so?
applications that we can, I don't know how, I mean, I'm probably not good at making something like that. Is there any kind of-
Dawn, it
That's
is.
Ross, McCandless and those guys, what they use.
Just see what,
You know,
get one of their blank, get each of them, get a blank form from each of them, figure out what the results look like.
It's actually for cog blast one too. Well, we could do a cog, you can do a cog blast through Mike Funk if you want for all the public works directors through the cog.
Okay, I don't know how to do that, I would probably have to.
Okay, do
I
you,
know how to do that, I did. That's
you
what I
attend-
did.
when the cog has, public works director, they have public works directors meetings? don't they?
Yes,
Okay,
well, we haven't had one for a while, I mean,
Lynn Ackland's actually,
Yeah,
actually
Lynn
not right now. I'll get that information.
Okay.
Yeah, Cogwell email blast, I send it to all the public works directors and they all respond.
So if we, can ideally,
Pull the
motion would be,
together,
there, first, and then there would be a resolution date at the October regular meetings, 1-to-1. Takes off. I mean, some of the other forms might take a little more time, and really, there shouldn't be too much specificity. You can cross-reference the ordinance, be available online. You can get it as to what is needed in an application, or copy and paste it in.
Further, Manager. Report, discussion process review wireless communication proposal.
All right, we have two proposals. I did send them out to you, so we need to decide how we proceed from here.
There's a big difference in poses if I read it.
Yeah, in one of those firms is a land use planning firm, but they happen to do some work in telecommunications. The other company, that's all they do,
Is the telecommunications.
and it's only for municipal governments.
And the hourly rates are incredibly, incredible.
So,
I think you gotta go with one where the expertise is.
do you want to interview them and?
Wasn't there, I mean, in terms of the RFP, like a ranking percentage or so?
Yeah,
so
there-
you have to do some level of
there are
that. I
rankings
don't
in there.
remember. Did it call for an interview, or could it just be based on?
Yes, the interview is part of the
Score.
score.
Interview.
We only have two, so I think it would make sense to talk to them both and then decide how you'd like to proceed from there. Okay,
When can we do that?
see if I can set up interviews for November. Looking at their,
Line or a special one.
the thing I'm looking at is, with the fees are looking at, they're talking about, maybe at the level we might want to look for grant funding to help with that, which would put it off a little bit, but you know, specifically the consultant that does this for a living, it's a much higher fee, but if you just Google them, they've represented a lot of cities, boroughs, towns around the United States. So you may decide that you can hold off a little bit, try to get grant funding to help pay for it.
But we can't you apply for the grants after we hire them?
Well, we can't expend any money or the grant won't pay for that. And with any grants, you cannot expend it.
Interviewing and going through the process.
Oh, we can do all that,
Oh,
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
They won't take money for the interview.
If you like, I can schedule them for the work session in November, see if they're available. I can do it sooner if you like.
What's the thought?
It would have to be a free meeting then at the council.
Yeah.
There's no cost to interview them. It's,
No,
Yeah.
It's part of it.
no.
yeah, it's part of.
So just put it into the ordinary course of the council meeting where we.
Okay, I'll reach out to Mark.
So we're going to go in November, not pre-meeting?
Oh, I mean, the October pre-meeting. Is there something else? There is something scheduled.
October 18th,
Sounds familiar.
at 6 is the personnel committee for the handbook.
Yeah.
And then November
That's gonna be-
November 1st to 15th. is your second one. You can do
Yeah,
it at
this-
7.
This would be part of the meeting itself. I wasn't thinking of separate special meeting, this interview.
Yeah, so at 7 on November 1st, you could do it right at the start of the work session.
Sometime.
Yeah.
Right, right. But we don't have anybody else.
Okay, so it's still done.
Difference in price.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's why you definitely want to talk to them.
and actually, it is a lot, isn't it? Just to even get it off the ground.
Full road, sidewalk.
Yeah. Yeah, just started this bidding, started getting
You
it.
got knock on doors.
Yeah.
There are some residents in Golden Road that
Yeah.
would like sidewalks along.
Yeah.
Only one of them got back to me,
Oh, wow.
and she says either sidewalks are wide in Golden Road.
Yeah.
Both of those are serious challenges.
So
Yeah.
that's what Dave's all about.
Yes.
Yeah. Talking about a feeder, some kind of. designated
Yeah,
feeder.
if you put in a new road that we have in our Saldo,
Yeah.
collector streets, arterial streets, minor streets.
Yeah.
Widths.
Width.
But older
So,
roads
but
are
the older
grandfathered
ones-
in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
The spreader was
prospective,
grandfathered.
Right, it's prospective.
Yeah, you'd be digging up what people
Sides.
consider to be their front yards
Yeah,
and
Right.
widen Golden Road.
We even have the right of way. We have a 50-foot one? No, like, is it? When we're a township and it was 33?
No. Having the right of way is not the same as owning the property, though, right? You still have to do a condemnation, to take the property.
Well, not if you're on the right.
Not if you have the right of way.
Oh, the right of way is a type of owner.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you can improve any part of the right of way.
Okay.
But if you have to go back on the property and
That's different.
make adjustments, you may need to slope easement.
Yeah, that's what we did.
That's like, no.
That's if you get a sidewalk route.
Oh,
No,
and
no,
then
it's
a
a
shoulder.
And it's not just side, I mean, last day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the shoulder, was it 12 inches or is it 16 inches? The width of the road right now is like, 9 and
8.5.
8.5, so.
What's the lane?
Yeah. the
Yeah,
east side.
and they want to go to 11.
So you're talking about adding another 1.5 on each side, is that a shoulder? Potentially, or is that,
So they wanted to
No,
show
I
that they
think it
couldn't
would
have a
be,
sidewalk.
yeah.
we get to go more than that, or?
What was that here?
You're good with the sidewalk? He's voting for the sidewalk.
Well, you can assess them all.
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean.
People have been asking for years
we
over
do
there
have
for
a lot of
sidewalk.
bank
Yeah.
account there.
What?
Trouble is not everybody.
I think we just-
But you can't make everybody happy, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
project.
So either you force it on everybody, or you're gonna have a number of unhappy people paying
Right.
for a sidewalk.
Right.
Sidewalks are great, but it doesn't have more impervious space.
It is.
Well,
Just point out the obvious.
Yeah, it's actually,
All in all,
City Hall Road is a challenging road to put.
rename
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may need steps.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, does the shoulder route make more feasible sense or?
The shoulder means you can like. I think you complain, I'd like to run a bicycle, I'd like to walk on the shoulder, which I'm not a fan.
That
of
is
at
not
all.
a great road.
It's a really bad
That
idea.
pedestrians do. Yeah.
There are two houses up there that apparently they put in their own sidewalks. They're just there.
That's just weird.
Well, and some
Their
of the
yard.
people on Wexford Run did that too. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
right. Oh,
they,
there.
half a dozen people. and
Like what
they
to
go
nowhere.
there.
They in the right of way or they?
They're on the road right away. They wanted to put it there and we get it when it comes up.
These are beautiful sidewalks too, this is nothing.
Yeah, road occupancy.
Line sidewalks. But I don't know about Cole Road, because it's, like you said, you can't make everybody happy and people aren't gonna like that. People that get it aren't like forced on them, but how are sidewalks ever placed after the fact? Is it always gonna be the case that some people are gonna be upset and not happy that they're being assessed for sidewalks or? I mean, we've never gone through it before. It's hard.
Your choices are either the borough pays for all sidewalks,
Yeah.
Which,
No,
or the residents pay for the sidewalks. And obviously there are residents who are gonna say, I do not want a sidewalk in my yard.
right.
This side, the sidewalks at Cole Road are coming before Jim Lawrence.
Yes.
He has not been able to get a coalition of people who would all be willing to have a sidewalk put in their yard.
That's maybe the thing back to the resident is we need to hear from everybody. We
Yeah,
can't just have a
she
few.
said to me herself that she can't guarantee that people are gonna like it.
Yeah,
Well, we had a sidewalk component, Tim was saying, for developments that are required to have sidewalks. For some reason it doesn't make sense. And really, it was only that,
And
campus
and we're gonna
school
use that
and
for
then-
summer fields. So,
that's what I remember.
yeah, we don't have a big.
So in the future,
sidewalk.
you might, get it. Right
Is this
now.
road's violation? Whenever do you know?
It's old.
No.
It's been,
Yeah.
okay,
All
Before
those
there
are
was anything.
prospective.
Yeah,
all right.
The new road coming in.
it's a difficult place to live, it's a difficult place to walk.
Yeah, I'm sure Tom, well, there's people that speak to that.
Mm.
When was the last time we were repaid?
That's pretty nice in these photos.
Actually, it was
Nice.
fairly recent.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a utility company. where
I'll
they're
tell you, I'm
pouring a lot-
opposed to it.
Yeah, people's gas when they pour it up.
Say that again, Tom, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I will say that I'm opposed to it, I just think it's, you know, obviously I live on Cole Road. The street wasn't designed for sidewalks, the lots aren't designed for sidewalks. I mean, if you looked at what it would take at every individual lot to put a sidewalk along that road, you know, I just thought about it, and you probably talking $10,000 per lot minimum. And you look at, I don't know how we would ever support doing something like that. And, you know, and I gotta be honest, my wife's not in the room here, but she said, boy, it'd be great to have sidewalks down where we're at. And I said, we're not with them. So, it just isn't practical. We have so many people that would love to have them. The cost would be prohibitive. And that's why they're now part of our land development ordinance that, you know, all new developments have them. But I'll bet you that it only started, I don't know, in the 1980s or something, where that became mandatory. And anything that predates that, which is probably 2/3 of the borough, probably doesn't have any requirement for them.
So Tony, you mentioned the $10,000 is cost prohibitive. Would the calculus change if it was something, I have no idea, if it was something that was available to get through grant money to do these improvements, or would the calculus be the same, just not a great place to do sidewalks in the community?
No, it's not a great place, and it's really difficult, because you look, everybody's got their driveway done differently now.
Yeah.
You come to a driveway, some people have asphalt driveways, some have concrete driveways. Nothing will be graded uniformly, where if you go into the new developments, you'll see they put the sidewalks and the curbs and all of that in right when they're building the homes and everything lines up and it makes it probably, you know, I'm gonna guess a quarter of the cost to do it when you're doing a new development as opposed to retrofitting it. Some people have trees planted where the sidewalk would want to be now because the trees are closer to the road. It's just the whole it would be a whole project at every home looking at what it would take to make that home acceptable to have a sidewalk installed in front of it.
That's true. When you grade a development, when you grade the right of way for development, you're grading the whole 50-foot wide right of way to make that sidewalk happen. So to make it on the same plane as the street. So you know, coming in after the fact, after driveways have been cut and stuff like that, that is a big problem. It's something you have to get around. Not doing concrete curbs anymore. So just someplace else to spend it.
Okay. Any more comments?
What do you tell the resident? Like, before we finish the conversation, what do you tell the resident?
First question, is sidewalks and grant funding like extending a water line? You know, or is the sidewalk more beneficial to the general population than a water line?
The only sidewalk grants I've seen have been PennDOT based and for walking to school. That would have been.
But this resident said there are plenty of grants out there we could certainly.
I don't know about it. Yeah, I mean, it is a public easement to go over and connect it, so it is a slightly better, I think, maybe less of a public health type of a consideration. But
Where does the sidewalk stop? Like, if you're trying to walk to that park, isn't Altmeyer Park that far or whatever it is? I mean, is that where the sidewalk's going? It's going north up to there?
I think they wanted to run the length of full range.
Yeah, cool.
So isn't like another municipality? Isn't that?
It goes in.
Marshall.
Right.
Yeah,
All the way up to 910.
Marshall has sidewalks.
Yeah, but that's a very small portion of the
Yeah.
whole side of the road.
Much different as far as grade and everything.
Right, yeah, it's level.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be a problem for us at all up until we start getting down to the bends going down to.
So I guess that would become an issue that we want to look at just going north and how would the people who were down around the bends feel if they didn't get a sidewalk and the people above them did?
No.
They couldn't walk to Altmeyer Park for the other people.
After the house that's being built, that Aaron's house, and as you continue walking down, I don't think there's sidewalks. There's certain points. Yeah, basically that. I don't think there's sidewalks as it stops, right? And it's basically like no sidewalks for a while until you Franklin Park. So wouldn't you have a sidewalk that literally just stops there and then you have a gap and then?
Yes. Yeah, if Marshall doesn't extend it.
If Marshall doesn't do it, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it stops before it's the border. I agree with something else.
I think that sidewalks and trails, our residents have made clear as an issue we need to look at, but I think it needs to be concerted effort of deciding exactly where it makes the most sense and not just responding knee-jerk to individual neighborhoods that say, hey, I want a sidewalk. I think you decide, okay, this is how it works best. This is a nice bicycle route, or this gets people to a good place, and you go about it that way, right?
Is the land use?
Talking about sidewalks?
Yeah.
You can talk about anything we want.
Yeah, we've got a comprehensive plan. Now we get to start using it.
Yeah.
So I will let the resident know that doesn't look good right now, but we are considering overall
Long range implementation.
overall. Okay.
Right. 2024 health.
Yes, you've been provided with information. There are changes to our health plans. Increased rates, and increased.
Deductibles, deductible plan. the, option to offer the performance blue plan. So we need to make decisions. We have to get, I have to get to MDS tomorrow what plans we are offering next year. So we need to decide on performance blue. If we're offering it, is it optional, mandatory? We need to decide the amounts of the high deductible plan.
And the important point there is that the IRS
Right.
says it's now 1,600, 3,200.
Correct.
Um,
And we can only, at this point, we can only. We would go to the 1,632 for everybody because it's the IRS mandate.
If you went past that.
If you went past that, you could only,
You get treated as if you did the.
you
The
could only do the
stipend
1,750, 3,500 to administrative
Right,
employees.
yeah,
You would have to
anybody with
negotiate
contract.
with the other two, with the unions,
Right,
to raise their deductible higher than the IRS mandated.
so the passive path of least resistance is the 1,600, the 1,632.
The other side of the borough is going to fund that.
Continues to fund.
It's entirely-
And again,
In the past, that's been the practice, though, it's just funded the highest deductible.
Ruben,
And
just
that's
say,
if the borough, I was reading CDA, if the borough wanted to do the 1750/35 and it funded the whole thing. Would it have the collective bargaining units because it's the same, it's not a decrease.
I mean, we had my contract, at one point we had exact,
So they would ask for something,
yeah,
Oh,
as we're asking for.
there was language, originally it said identical or the same, and that's all they're never.
right, I just looked at I look at the police, I looked at. Just a contract, I just looked at. Page 18 there.
Does this change at all when we hit 50 employees?
No, that's.
Broker doesn't care about that, they're gonna sell you the plan anyway.
From the meetings at Mockenhoff, when Kathy and I went, they suggested that if the employees pay for their deductibles, they sort of recommended going with the 1750/35 because they expect the IRS to change the minimums next year and the year after. So to just bump it up a little higher, so you're not dinging your employee each year. But in plans where the employer funds it, they felt there was no reason to just not do the minimum. Because what's the difference if next year the minimum goes up to 1,650 and we have to change our paperwork? It doesn't really affect the employees if council still chooses to fund that.
Yeah, and we. Several contracts ago, because I think the language then was just, we'll offer in at a specific name,
Yes.
or PPO, and that was it. So the language that we changed. Well, all full-time employees shall be provided with health insurance benefits by the borough in terms of this agreement. The borough may change healthcare plans and providers so as long as the change is comparable to or better than the current plan. Borough agrees to provide healthcare insurance under no less than the same terms as are applicable to borough employees excluded from the bargaining units. In the event the provider unilaterally imposes changes in an existing plan, or if the parties are required to adopt changes pursuant to the ACA, or if the borough seeks to change a plan or provider, the parties agree to the following procedure, would put in sort of an expedited meet and discuss, can't agree, go to like a 60-day arbitration. And it was an interest arbitration, not, essentially that the arbitrator had the authority to determine what would be allowed. So.
The current UPMC plan, you can only visit UPMC.org. Current Highmark plan we have, you can do Highmark and UPMC. The new Highmark plan they're offering is Highmark only.
it's
So,
a restricted.
It's a narrow network, and our big, we represent the Allegheny schools or county schools, health insurance consortium, 91 entities. They are like the MBS for all these school districts, except for North Allegheny and the city of Pittsburgh. But Tom will recognize this. And so they have a contract with just Highmark. They've always been in a narrow network, so it's, only been UPMC for Children's, say Western Site, those two joint hospitals. But they moved to Performance Blue starting first. They were able to negotiate a guarantee savings because the pitch was, well, you go to this, additionally restricted, network, but they're supposed to, Highmark, doing things behind the scene to increase, results and lower costs through negotiating the contract. So we worked out an agreement that, but essentially a guarantee that, we would see savings by making the change that would make up for the increased administrative fee. Part of that, there at least have been some changes, like not everything went down when they negotiated, and one thing, maternity care for some reason went up, both in terms of the number. So, a lot of people that might be going having babies, one area where the cost went up. Yeah, and they're a self-funded entity, so they pay everything fully insured.
I didn't like the one that talks about how you might wind up getting out of network and not realize that you have to be more careful. I don't like that idea for anybody. I think that's a disaster.
Performance.
Because what that is a surprise bill. You're not supposed to do that.
And, like I know we did have an incident recently where an employee had a procedure done. Their doctor was a Highmark doctor, but had privileges at a UPMC facility.
I've seen that before. Yeah.
So if they, if they
They
were
went out
canceled,
network. Yeah.
so,
But in that case, the person had UPMC's insurance, right?
no.
Okay,
They did not.
so they did not.
Just the doctor had admitting privileges at the hospital.
They
so he
went with
wouldn't
a
do the
Highmark
work
doctor to the facility, which is not network.
Correct. But with the current plans that we have,
Yeah.
you could do that.
Okay.
But if we do the Performance Blue, then they cannot do that.
I don't.
So I'll say like Performance Blue, I mean, I understand the intent of the plan. So if the person is following a Highmark doctor, I mean, this to me, it sounds like an outpatient procedure. It's scheduled, right? It's not an emergency.
It was not an emergency. I don't know that it was an outpatient, but it was a surgical procedure.
But it was scheduled.
Yeah.
So,
Doctor has no incentive to decide whether or not you're going out of network or in network for the hospital. They don't
understand,
care.
but it is disclosed that it's not a network. All that is checked beforehand because there's the concern that happens. I don't know. I mean, there is a substantial cost savings between going with that Performance Blue plan because you are covered if you go to the ER. I mean, if you have your appendix burst in front of hazardous, they will treat you. It'll be a network. I mean, when you're stabilized, you will be transferred to the Highmark hospital. So I mean, that's consideration. The number is substantial between like, I'm just looking at the high full this 1750. I mean, it's like 1900 a year, I will say. If I'm just going by these numbers today.
And the other thing is, you can make that optional as well. There may be people who choose it for the lower, the lower premium, so their portion would be lower as well. You may have people who, like you said, all my providers are Highmark. I only go to Highmark facilities, so there's no way we don't have a crystal ball, but we could offer it as an option.
Yeah. Maybe just as an option.
10% cheaper. It's 10%.
You have to choose two, like, we're wondering.
You can offer all.
You can offer
We can
three.
offer all three.
Oh, okay, all
But
right.
this is what
Okay.
we need to tell them tomorrow, what plans we're offering. Because starting Monday, the 16th, open enrollment starts where the employees can go out and pick their plans, pick their networks. So we have to notify MBS. Deadline is Friday. I'm not possibly working part of Friday, but I may not be working at all. So I'm set the deadline for tomorrow to get it in. So, like I said, we need to decide, are we offering Performance Blue Yes or no, if we're offering it, is it optional, mandatory?
I'd say yes, and optional.
Me too, yes,
And then you have to decide on the deductible then.
Right. That's on the next one, but
So if you offer all three, that's a possibility.
Yes.
Is there a cost to the borough for offering all three?
No.
Or is it-
no.
Oh, okay.
And then I'd go with the IRS minimum and not go up to the next.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Even though that was recommended.
Well, it was only recommended.
If the employee is paying.
Right.
That's what I'm making that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's the other question that the borough is still
What's
going
that?
to get contribute 100%.
We don't need to, because that's handbook and then police participation.
That's not.
They don't have to. Yeah, I put it in there, but we don't have.
Yeah. What was the other question?
Whether the borough's gonna cover the pool premium.
And that's through an
Like
HSA.
full deductibles.
So that's through an HSA where you carry a
Yes.
card around, and you pay,
Yes.
card, so the card goes to zero.
Yes.
Well,
My vote
that's,
is yes on that.
yeah, we typically fund that like January first, right?
Okay. Is that what it is? You funded January 1st and then.
We funded like the first week of January and then, yeah.
Employees who leave, you know, if they would leave for any reason throughout the year, it's on the forms that they sign, that they have to reimburse us for any unused portion. So if they leave the end of June, they have to reimburse us for 6 months of that. Yes, he did. So,
Yeah,
so performance blue will be optional.
right.
So third option, we're going with the 1,632, and it still will be funded. Deductibles will be funded.
I can say that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or for Highmark, so I should.
There's that out.
Just close that here.
It won't affect your compensation.
And Kathy scheduled a meeting, have somebody come in and explain this to all of our.
Okay.
employees.
Good.
Yeah,
That's
next
probably a good idea.
Wednesday, we'll hand everything out. She'll explain all the details. And then they'll have everything ready for open enrollment, which is the 16th through November 3rd. So they'll have 3 weeks. They want to do online open enrollment this year, so we'll give it a shot and see how it goes.
Curious.
Okay. You're good. Kathy?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, weather down? Yeah. Right, like your whole.
It's
Yeah.
not everybody. It's.
Okay, you good, Kathy? All right. All right. Report council and mayor. Brian.
Apart from fun with sidewalks, the other issue that came up when I was walking around was, and this is just for people's information, I don't expect them to happen. One of the residents was complaining because there was a party on Thursday night last, and it was a fundraiser, and it was in McCandless, but it was so loud that the Franklin Park residents in this neighborhood heard it. And she said, when she called over to McCandless Police, that they were very vague about the fact that it was a permitted party and they couldn't do anything. And I have done my job. I have reported to council. This was from a resident. I sympathized with her. I said I wouldn't like it if it was that loud either, and I will tell my fellow council people that this happened. And look for some guidance.
Did it go on late?
Very late, very late, yeah. And it was one, and the police said it was one of many calls they received about the loudness of this particular party. There was apparently a live band, and it was heard all over the area. It wasn't, yeah.
Were they invited to the party?
Nobody knew.
They were not.
They did. That could have been.
I don't think so. That wasn't in the, we had a similar situation, but that party was within the borough. And that got wrapped up by 10 o'clock. We actually had to go and tell them to keep it down.
I guess the kicker was that the lady that was talking to me was like the head of the homeowners association in the neighborhood. And so she received all of these complaints and she felt it was important that she called the man McCandless.
Are you able to say what neighborhood?
I have to look. I think it was Timber. I think it was Timberland. I think it was
Yeah,
Well, you know what, was it somebody had submitted a written complaint through Marshall's website
Okay.
that was forwarded to me, that I forwarded on to Sam.
Okay.
So that's why I wondered if
Sounds like
maybe
it's
it wasn't,
probably-
because
yeah.
they, I think they thought that the plan
Was in,
was in
Right.
Marshall,
I was in Marshall.
so they submitted it, so,
Yeah.
but it was.
Yeah, that,
Sounds like the right area.
It
yes,
was
that was
Saturday.
the party. It was in Franklin Park in the Gray Oaks plan.
Okay.
And officers checked that, didn't hear any noise. Then later in the evening, they heard it from Sorgels and went over and told them to shut it down. And then they shut it down. So it was wrapped up before 10 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
I have nothing more to add.
Tell them we were on it.
I will.
Well, that's good. You've been going since 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Your day.
Yeah, just a public service request. So on Nicholson Road, there's a lot of trees that are obstructing the view when you're turning left or right out of the neighborhood. So a couple residents, when I was walking around, talking about it. So I live in Spring Ridge. When you make a left turn out, there's trees that are kind of like, and same on the right side too. I think the right side could probably be just pruning of those branches that'll not obstruct the view to the right, but I think on the left side, I really wasn't going there. So, and it's a county road. What are like the steps to, that's a big road.
That's his state.
Okay. What's like the process of?
That's Spring Ridge though, that's the borough.
Spring Ridge, so when you make a left out of Spring Ridge or right out of Spring Ridge,
Yeah,
this is across from Deerfield.
right.
So if you're making a left, there are quite a few trees that are basically obstructing the view of the site when you're making a left turn out.
Yeah.
Yeah, along Nicholson. So I don't know what the process is in terms of having it looked at or.
Gary, take a look.
I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll check with Gary and see what.
Yeah, I can take pictures if you need them tomorrow. But I
Probably
forgot to
pretty
do that.
obvious.
It maybe PennDOT says, do it yourself.
Yeah.
When you go, hey, I got a problem.
Theme and more.
In which case we can do it.
Okay.
Or do you think they're on right away or are they on private?
I think they're in the easement. They're just, the trees are that close, but it might be just pruning the branches that could probably solve the problem.
The first step, Ron, would be to reach out to the property owner and say, we've got this issue here.
Yeah.
They're not property owner issues, they're canopying,
They're pretty far.
they're canopying. You need to sit in the middle of Nicholson Road and with the bucket truck and. And actually, the site distance is probably a lot more than the thing. It's just, that's a big scary road coming down there to your road.
Yeah, they slow down too, so.
Got another one.
Yeah. Too late.
One of the residents, has said, why can't we get a leaf vacuum like McCann or something? So I'm just telling you, right?
Yeah, we had that request a few years
Yeah.
back.
Boy, that's an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one I hear is,
Yeah. You can borrow there.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Okay.
Your day, that's it.
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
Mayor, you.
Okay. About a week ago, I was having lunch at the New York hot dog place, and in the cameras, and I made an acquaintance. Didn't know him well, but I do now. That's Bill Youngblood of the MTSA. He's the executive director, and he also sits on our ambulance board. And so he said, Mayor, have you ever been to Philly over there? TSA? No, I have no idea where it even is. And so he said, follow me. And I ended up having a 2-hour tour. And what a facility. MTSA, but it's as clean as you would ever find any place. There's a few buildings involved with that. Lots of equipment. Seems like he buys most of the equipment from surplus military, right? Tim, you aware of this? Have you ever been there?
I have been, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And,
It's an authority of authorities.
what's that, Tim?
It's an authority of authorities.
Yeah, and, equipment is spotless. They only have 58 employees. The floors, the floors are, anyway, I found it just totally amazing. He's very proud. You know him too?
I don't know him real well, but I know Ray Hoffman from over there and I've
Yes.
worked places.
Well, his son, yeah, he works there. Yeah, right. I met him actually. And I went to where they pick the drones up and they pulled the drones out for me and anyway, bottom line of the story is the invitation is open for any of you. You want to tour it? It's really an eye opener. He gave me some dates. He's available next week, the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 11 o'clock in the morning. What I'll do is I'll send him a little something out, an email to everybody. You can come back to me and let me know. He'd be happy to give you all. Of course. So, that's my report.
Anything else?
No.
Julia?
Okay, so I'll start with my question. So for the cell towers, these new companies, what are we hiring them for? Are they going to determine a location or install it?
They are going to determine what we need. Do we need towers? Do we need smaller antennas? Do we need nothing at all? And then they're going to determine where the best location would be for them.
Okay. And then I just wanted to say thank you for last week. It was a great experience getting to see the severe weather plan, I would say. And also, I didn't realize how many people just sitting in this room are involved with the fire department. So it was really great to see.
Thank you, Julia. Anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you.
John Lee?
Yeah, a few things. And first, and I think last time and I checked with Rich and some regarding the my neighbors just came to this Borough building and to recycle some items, and he probably brought quite a bit of stuff, like including plastic, cardboard, and the glass. Then he told me that he was stopped by police officer and saying that and he cannot put the plastic, and stuff items and in the recycling bin. And he said that the Borough building they usually had one like the recycling bin for mixed items.
Yeah, we had one bid for mixed items that people would throw their McDonald's bags in there when they finish eating their breakfast. And it ended up being just garbage.
Oh, okay.
It was just garbage, so we got rid of it.
Is there a reason they're not putting it in their curbside recycling?
But because he has too many, and he has a kind of party, and then he want he want to recycle that, and the items that, and usually that also happened sometimes to us, and because that recycling in that we have for the from the waste management is too small. You just notice that if you put a few items there, it's full, and if you have like even small party, and then you have a tons of stuff that you really cannot. So people usually just throw away and just do right in the trash. So my neighbors and he's really want to recycle, so that's why he asked and whether we can still have and the recycling bin or some stuff and for the near the Borough building and
It's up to you. I mean, we could have a bin put in again. It's anything you want to throw in there, but it's trash. It's trash.
Yeah, Donna
It
was
is not recyclable.
forever
Not
pulling stuff
recyclable.
out of that dumpster. It
And
it was constant.
I found things, if I have a party or something, as long as I get rid of the cardboard, I can usually fit the rest of it in there.
I just say, hey neighbor. I've done that, and I don't remember, and bear with me, because Donna handles the recycling. But I don't, when people request a larger.
Or another one.
I've never seen a large.
I have the small one.
Yeah, and then there's the big one.
And then there's the bigger one.
I think you can ask for another one.
My neighbor has two.
Yeah, you can ask your.
Yeah, you can,
They- they
I don't
have
think
that.
you're limited on just one recycling.
Yeah.
So you can ask for that.
Yeah.
For free?
You, I don't know that they'll give it to you for free. You may have to
85.
purchase it. They may require, I think you can get your first one free, but I'm guessing you'd have to purchase. the
Oh, okay.
second.
So second one you can request, but you only need to pay, right? That's like the $80.
Yeah, so like
a
For the
one-time
second
fee.
one.
I was gonna say, reach out to Donna.
Yeah.
She has all the details if you send her an email.
They're not charging you more for the collection.
Right.
Right,
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's
what
what
the
it is.
bin itself, right?
And if it breaks, like the truck broke.
I think they replaced. it.
Yeah, they'll.
They
replace
will
those.
either
They
come out and
replace
fix
some
it,
or
replace it.
Okay.
We have had people, what we always ask is that you call Waste Management yourself the first time.
Okay.
If you don't get any results, then call Donna.
She gets results.
I'll try to fix it. I mean, it's.
They will,
If it's
come out. They
okay.
have
Yeah,
a route
They
supervisor
fix
that
it.
that will.
Yeah, I've seen them come through with a truck before and replace,
I mean, it's not, it's just one side of the thing. I mean, it is hanging at some point. It is probably gonna snap off
Yeah.
into the thing.
They'll.
You can recycle it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the question.
I think they'll pick it up. They can put a sign on it.
Put it on the
Yeah,
sign and,
yeah.
yeah, so you recycle the whole
It's been a
thing.
year and a half. so-
Uh, Second thing is just like, yeah, and about the speed bump, a bumper, and so actually, and one resident came to me and saying like, you know that today, and the city of Pittsburgh, they have a speed bump,
Why you looking at me?
because because and I kind of like repeat what you said the last time regarding that one. I said it's not safe for the fire truck, it's not safe for the police car. And I said, it's better to not put like any speed bump on the road. And he said, that the city of Pittsburgh, they put a lot of, speed bump. And do we have a big police car or big fire truck? I said, no problem, the same size. And he actually, and that resident from the 100 point and the community, he said that, people just always, and speed, in that, some community is kind of like dangerous because the road is not that wide, it's kind of narrow or something. And he want us to do something. And he definitely suggested to put it in.
Where he live?
It's Hunter Point. Yeah, and that entrance is kind of like narrow, and so I totally understand.
Putting on Nicholson or?
No,
Hunter Point,
Hunter Point. That street is called, the road is called the Pheasant. Yeah, Pheasant one, yes. And actually, and I stand there for a couple minutes, and I noticed that people just when they, and get to that, community, they just like speed up, and it's doesn't look so safe, but and to put the speed bump there, and according to my experience with the mayor, and it's not that.
We always hear first you put them in and then somebody complains about the noise and then somebody takes them out again. That's
No problem.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah, no difficult on it.
Yeah,
Speed humps that are a little less severe, that are a little rounded, that are supposed to be a little less, they take up more space and.
Oh, yeah, so they take longer to get across.
Yeah, so you don't.
Yeah, I think they like them in school, they use them around schools.
North Park has.
Yeah, right, North Park going through the main, right?
Yeah.
Can we do something like that? Yeah,
Isn't there, aren't there
You'll
speed,
have every street, every.
aren't there speed treads
There is.
that are
Rumble strips.
rumble strips that are spaced out and they're almost nothing more than heavy duty painted line?
They're on, if you know where Hillendale is.
I know where Hillendale is, yeah,
Right.
and when we were there.
They're there.
I actually, along the same lines, Charlie, I was approached by the staff at St. John Newman. They've noticed a number of times where they've seen
Right.
people crossing, people walk up the sidewalk from Franklin Town into St. John, and then cross over to Old Orchard Road.
Right.
And the comment was, they're just waiting for that accident to happen. And they've heard screeching brakes, the whole deal, a number of different times, in that road there.
But I went, because I was getting those complaints from St. John Newman, probably at the same time you were. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And I looked at Hill and Dale, and, I mean, they were there, but they wouldn't slow anybody down. They're not disruptive at all.
He thought it was a visual image that would help, because he understands you can't put a speed bump at the road at that point.
Right.
It's impossible, and crossroads aren't feasible either. For bridge.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, somebody wants to slow down traffic, why, I guess it works, but when you saw on the flip side of that, plowing, if it's an issue with plowing, and also can damage equipment, plowing, and also slows down emergency vehicles. So you're trying to get a fire truck through there, and all of a sudden that fire truck's gonna get there maybe 5 or 10 seconds later where it's going, and we've never had them in front.
And it's a noise issue. And I know in King Charles in Brook Park Plan, there was a speed bump there.
Yes, there was.
And we had so many complaints over so many years, you take it out because it drives neighbors crazy.
What's the compromise, the big, like, striking thing where it says slow?
Yeah, and
It's just a visual thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
I think that's the
stop.
same thing as the speed strip.
Yeah.
Dennis is talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
because we put them up at the school, remember when we were worried about kids
Right,
getting run over,
right,
over
yeah.
Lenora as they headed to the middle
I
school.
wonder how that's worked. I have not heard a complaint since.
I haven't, I've walked Lenora a lot and, you know, you
It
check.
seems to have helped.
It has, and also, the principal over there, personally directs traffic or has somebody else every day going in and out of there. It never was like that before those crosswalks. So
Right.
as a car, you're forced to stop when kids are walking through the crosswalk. And that helps a lot.
But I think like the problem, yeah, the street, like just draw like a few lines or put something like that.
That's
Like,
impossible.
yeah, and I think that's the problem, and we might need to do something. So the last one is just like to follow up with and all this request, and I also noticed in my own community and Nichols Woods, when I usually, if I turn like the turn right, okay, I need to go very short from the community, and actually, and also that there is some like tree, you know, block the, you know, your view, and sometimes and it's kind of like not be able to see like clearly, and when we ask, and you know, Gary also take a look at, you know, and my community just to make sure that if we can cut.
A line of sight.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing, and just whether they can remove some like, you know, branch or tree or whatever, you know, and just to make sure that we can, you know, really see that when they turn, like that go around. It would be, quite helpful. That's it. Anyway.
Excellent. You're good. Tom Schwartzmeyer.
Oh, sweet.
No, I heard. He was there a few minutes.
Tom, you have anything?
No, I'm here. I have to unmute my phone. No, I do just a couple very quick comments. Where I'm staying on vacation this week, we had back to the sidewalk discussion. There's a lot of sidewalks, that I've actually been walking on in the mornings here, and they made them out of asphalt and they wound around the trees. They're a little helter-skelter, but there are less expensive ways in some of the real rural areas where you can do pathways along the road, less costly than, you know, our premier sidewalks. I don't know, I could take a couple pictures of those when I'm walking tomorrow morning and show you what they do down here at Hilton Head, but it's for the same reason that we would need an alternative. They have sloped banks, they have big trees that are right next to the road, and so there are It's probably doesn't look quite as good as the nice concrete straight sidewalks that, we're used to seeing in Franklin Park, but there might just be some alternative ways to put I'll call them more like walk paths along the road rather than, full sidewalks. I don't know if we'd want to go there, but maybe I'll bring back a couple of examples of that. And then, the only other comment I had is I do like the idea of, that Dennis brought up about touring the MTSA facility. I have toured Alcosan in the past, and that was pretty enlightening. And I've actually never gone through the MTSA facility, but I think as Dennis indicated, if those things, if a facility like that is operated correctly, you virtually have no odor caused by the processing process.
Right, he mentioned it. Right.
No, it's okay. I mean, you would say, how can they keep all the odors on? But if they are operating it properly, they actually do. It's quite a thing to see. So, Dennis, I might want to take you up on that. That's one I've never actually toured, but I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Well, actually, he mentioned when he's gonna be available next week, but he also said we can make this anytime. He's wide open to show this facility. He's very proud of it. So, I'll get some stuff out and we'll put something together.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Couple of things. One, I was just curious as to what councils and mayor's thoughts are regarding last week's simulation of an emergency plan and situation. It was interesting evening, I thought, but I'm curious about council's thoughts and input in regards to it.
I thought if anything, it kind of highlighted for me how little we know about what's going on with the emergency processes and how in-depth the thought processes are for coming up with these plans. And it was for that reason a really important experience, I thought, because I said before, you don't know what questions to ask if you don't know enough about what's going on. And this was very helpful to get there, to know what questions to ask. Right. So,
yeah, at least we know where to show up at.
You know that. Yeah, we learned about the phone.
Yeah, right.
So, but more than that, it was interesting that the process of kind of watching the team work with the different emergency groups and everything. And it was, I thought it was a really good experience.
It was well put together and well presented. And I think that we learned a lot because we didn't know too much before.
That's right. Maybe you learned enough to ask the right questions next time, right?
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
I thought it was interesting, a comment by the county emergency operations coordinator, head honcho, made the comment that he's done this 25 years, and there are 130 municipalities in Allegheny County, and we're one of only 20 who's done anything significant like that. So it's a pretty good step. So, okay, thanks. Let's see. I think that actually was really to.
Hey, John, I have one more
Yes,
question.
sir.
Because you brought this to my mind when we were talking about speed bumps, I guess. Lisa, a while back, we talked about the state was going to give us some allowance or to help us somehow with making that crossway from Franklin Town over to the park more safe, and I lost track of that.
Yeah, they would be willing to give us guidance on signage, but we would have to extend the sidewalk all the way down to the intersection.
That would be
on our dime, and then paint the crosswalk across. But they would tell us what
intersection?
in Old Orchard.
Down to Franklin.
Yeah, the sidewalk doesn't go all the way down the intersection. They are requiring that we do it at the intersection.
Right. Okay,
Because there has to be a sidewalk that hooks to the side.
Yeah, which makes sense. How far is that? That's not that far.
No, but it's on some guy's property.
Yeah.
It's in the right of way, but.
Are we Are we talking about the sidewalk on the Franklin Town side or on our?
Sidewalk on our side has to be extended down so that it reaches the intersection.
Do you know how much linear feet that would be?
I
Just
don't-
guessing.
Don't know that.
Yeah.
It's not a lot.
We haven't approached the property owner, have we?
Not yet, we haven't.
Because, you know, it is a really dangerous thing to.
Well, there's a lot of people going to Orchard Park right
A lot
back.
of people in Franklin Town.
With
Yeah,
babies, I've seen them pushing carriages and kids
Yeah.
holding on to the mother's hands, you know?
And come crossing with 2 or 3 dogs and a baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen that.
To get to the park.
It is an issue. Okay, what would be the next step?
Well, I guess first be to reach out to the property owner and basically, I guess we tell him that we're gonna do the sidewalk right away in front of his property.
Stand back.
Yeah, and go.
And he would have to then maintain and keep it clear from the residents crossing.
If it's an asphalt sidewalk, would that help?
Oh, asphalt. Yeah, we should do our first.
No, it's
Concrete up to that point in time.
Wouldn't be our first.
Concrete.
Got one along, the kennel. We do like an aggregate.
Oh, yeah. you can
Right,
see
yeah,
that,
well,
yeah.
That's asphalt, I think it's just.
But you're getting.
I think we should make that extensions to that. Online.
Yep.
And they may want it too. Okay, let's take that step, getting forward. Okay. Anything else? Anything I've missed? We have an executive session.
Hi, Julia.
One of my parents